All right, welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. We're here tonight doing another Saturday night shoot the breeze. Pardon me. Just want to let you guys know what's in store for you guys tonight. We have a few topics. We are going to be talking about the missing cultural link between African Americans and Afro-Caribbean peoples. We're going to talk a little bit about France and how France is using the internet to brainwash Africans. We're going to talk about Haiti and its indirect creation of modern day United States. We're going to talk about the biases. We talked about this a little bit last week. We're going to talk about another instance of the biases of judges, even before they sit down to adjudicate cases. We're going to talk about Biden and his comments about my hometown a few years back. We're going to talk about a judge in Louisiana who's getting unpaid leave after video captured some racial slurs being thrown about. We're going to talk about Nigeria's plans of reciprocal flight bans on 4 countries over the new variant of C-19. We're going to talk about Charlemagne the God versus Kamala Harris in this heated exchange they have. So all those things we're going to talk about tonight. I am happy to see you guys here. We will begin these conversations on the other side.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Saturday night, shoot the breeze. Glad you guys could join me tonight. We have some topics lined up. I see folks in the comment section already. Let me shout everyone out. Kevin Carre 42 is here saying greetings. NYC Sports Archives is here saying hello. NYC Beauty says greetings. Bobby E. Wright is here in the chat saying Habari Ghani, brothers and sisters of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Greetings, brother Koku. Greetings to you too, brother. I appreciate you for being here. I just saw your comment on Instagram as well, so thank you. The Pro-Black Perspective is in here. Y'all make sure to check out the Pro-Black Perspective. Make sure to subscribe. He's close to 1,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe to his platform and check out his show on Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Harsh Reality Podcast is here saying peace, family. Y'all make sure check out the Harsh Reality Podcast as well. Both of these brothers are on the same network that I am on. The Harsh Reality Podcast had a recent Presents episode where he had a conversation with our very own the Revolutionary Matron from the Learning Curve Podcast. So you guys should check that out. Good listen. Real smooth listen too. Audrey Kemi is here. You seem to be new. Greetings, Audrey. Thanks for coming through. Mr. Untouchable is here. He says, hi, Audrey. I'm glad you could make it. Okay, Mr. Untouchable knows Audrey. I'm going to post the link now in the chat. If anyone who wants to join the panel, by all means, any and everyone is invited to come on through. Daily Affirmations by Pauline is here saying good evening. Good evening to you as well. Jonelle is here saying good night. Jonelle just recently graduated, by the way. So y'all give Jonelle some love, please. Just recently graduated. Proud of the young lady. Give her some love. Janelle Benjamin is here saying, hey. Hello, Janelle. I think Janelle was on the panel once a couple of weeks ago, too. Kevin Carre says, let's get the likes up. I agree. And here we have Kevin Carre joining the panel. Kevin Carre, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
Good to hear, man.
Until this blasted month is over.
Oh yeah. What's your biggest issue with this month?
Usually December and November are two of the most depressing months when you live in the Northeast. The further north you live, the shorter the days, the less the vitamin D.
Okay. So you're feeling it right now. Okay. Well, let's have a good conversation tonight, and let's just try to bring up everyone's spirit. Again, the link is in the chat. Whoever wants to jump on can join us. I see Coach Pete is here saying greetings, Coach Pete. And I see folks are giving congrats to Jonelle. KW Don 7 is here saying Sawabona. Peace to you, KW Don 7. Again, I mean, you guys are like my family at this point, to be honest. It's nice to be able to hang out with you guys on a Saturday night and shoot the breeze. I'm going to post the first prompt for tonight. This is the first prompt tonight. It is the missing cultural link between African Americans and Afro-Caribbean people. What we're going to do, I'm going to show a video. It's about 6-7 minutes long. And we're going to come back. That'll give Mr. Untouchable and whoever else wants to join time to join the platform. We'll watch this video. And on the other side, we'll have a discussion about this as well. So let me share the screen. Let me share the screen. Okay, you guys should be able to see this. Let me just double check. Yeah, you guys should be able to see this. So let's watch this, and we'll have a discussion about it on the other side.
What about the world? Welcome to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And welcome back to my series, A Closer Look. Today, we're going to be taking a closer look at the Gullah people of America. And as always, if you want to support the home team on these videos and future animated projects, you may do so on patreon.com. Also, go to afrographics.com, a website where you can find illustrative infographics on African history. All links in the description box below. The term Gullah refers to the language, culture, and peoples of the Sea Islands of South Carolina, Georgia, and northern Florida. These groups of former enslaved Africans are perhaps the most unique group of people in America because of their rich culture and because they've been here for so long. For the Gullah people, economic and social isolation created a unique Creole culture and society amongst them. In Georgia, Gullah people are sometimes referred to as the Geechee, a name derived from the nearby Ogeechee River. The history of the Gullah people began with the large-scale migration of Caribbean planters to the South Carolina and Georgia Sea Islands in the 17th and 18th centuries, relocating en masse With their newly enslaved and seasoned Africans, local planters reestablished absentee plantations where interactions between blacks and whites were limited. As early as the first decade of the 17th century, enslaved and free black people outnumbered whites in the region, and by the 19th century, the number of enslaved black people inhabiting the islands had grown to 80% of the local population and over 95% in rural pockets along the coast. The unusually large numbers of newly arrived enslaved Africans and African Americans in the region played a very important role in the development of the Gullah culture and language. This population, combined with their relative isolation from the rest of the country and other African Americans, fostered the Gullah culture and language. Some can even make a fair claim that the Gullah people are a subgroup or branch of the African American populace. The Sea Islands, which consist of several hundred low flat islands in close proximity to the South Carolina and Georgia coast, range in size from the small to larger islands located off the coast of urban centers. Well into the 19th century, the islands had limited contact with the mainland, creating a cultural hotspot for the various black peoples that gathered there. The coastal isolation of the islands also facilitated the continued importation of illegally imported Africans who were sold to Sea Island planters as late as 1858. The Gullah language consists of several regional dialects and can even sometimes be unintelligible to standard English speakers. Colonel Thomas Wentworth Higginson, abolitionist and author of Army Life in the Black Regiment, was among the many Northerners who remarked on the unique grammatical cadence and vocabulary of the Gullah people during and immediately after the Civil War. When folklorists were able to interview residents, Native Africans and other former enslaved black people were still alive to share folkways passed down from their recent ancestors. The Gullah people's contact with Africans reinforced beliefs and practices passed down centuries before. However, events of the 19th century also contributed to the development of Gullah culture. Immediately following the American Civil War, many whites abandoned their Sea Island plantations, leaving large numbers of enslaved people and freedmen with unregulated access to land. Precipitated by the arrival of Union troops and Northern aid workers, the islands became a testing ground for post-war programs that sought to integrate free men into free society. As white flight to the mainland further isolated the islands, inland African Americans seeking land brought language and culture from the outside to the region. Although some whites regained rights to their land after the war, the experiences of wartime land ownership helped limit the effects of black outmigration after emancipation. Once someone hears the Gullah language, it becomes hard to forget. The Gullah language represents a blend of European, Caribbean, and African elements acquired during the 3 centuries of the Atlantic slave trade. Contrary to the beliefs of 19th century scholarship, Gullah is not a simplified version of English, but a complex blend of English and several African languages. A pioneering figure concerning the African influence on Gullah language is an African-American linguist named Lorenzo Doe Turner. His work carried a debate for generations to come and has undoubtedly stood the test of time. Though others have tweaked his work, rearranging particular details, his discovery has been the foundation of studies on the African influence on the Gullah language. His book, Africanisms in the Gullah Dialect, was considered not only the pioneering work of Gullah language and culture, but also the advent of a new field in African American studies. Before him, it was largely assumed that African culture and language were erased by slavery, and that Gullah was simply dumbed down English, as mentioned before. He was the first to connect the Gullah dialect to its African origin. Turner elevated the debate from one based on speculation to one based on demonstration. Turner identified Africanisms in personal names, everyday conversation, and words heard only in songs, stories, and prayers amongst the Gullah people. He proclaimed that there were several African ethnic groups that contributed to the Gullah language. The languages consist of Wolof, Mandinka, Bambara, Fulani, Mende, Vai, Twi, Fante, Ga, Ewe, Fon, Yoruba, Bini, Hausa, Igbo, Bakongo, Ubundu, and many others. Gullah culture closely followed the pattern of language, borrowing heavily from African folkways. Anthropologists and folklorists have identified strong ties to African folk beliefs regarding family organization, religious practice, work patterns, and artistic expression. The enslaved Gullah people in rice-producing regions off the coast, for example, worked rice fields in an African manner using African-style baskets and fans to process the commodity. They also used baskets to carry goods in a style reminiscent of West and Central African culture and produce coiled pottery and household items identical to those produced in West Africa. When it comes to religion, the Gullah today are primarily Christian, but they incorporated elements of African song and dance into their religious practices, such as the ring shout. Gullah spiritualism is derived from African and Caribbean rituals. Even though the Gullah have been relatively isolated for years, the influx of tourism and other economic transformations have led to the decline of the Gullah way of life. Even though the numbers of Gullah speakers are in decline, their unique history and legacy in that region remains one of the gems of American history. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help out in its continued production, please consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.
Interesting there. Interesting. We welcome Mr. Untouchable to the panel. Mr. Untouchable, what say you today?
Good night, everyone. Good night, Koku. Good night, Kevin. I just wanted to say thank you, Audrey and Janelle, for chiming in and coming to the broadcast for the night. So,
all right. Thank you very much for sharing the show with others and having others join, man. I appreciate you and I appreciate them for coming through. Bobby Wright in the chat says, I actually first learned about the Gullah people and culture from Julie Dash's movie, Daughters of the Dust, back in 1990. I'm not familiar with that film. Any of you guys in the panel familiar with that film?
yeah, I saw it a while back. It was a very good movie about the Gullah people. I think they created it in the 80s or the 90s, early 90s. It's an interesting movie. You know, it talks about their culture. So
okay, so it's something to check out.
Yes, it's something to check out. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say greetings to the Learning Curve. That's the Revolutionary Matron. You guys make sure to check out the Learning Curve episodes when they drop. Always, in fact, again, check out the Revolutionary Matron on the Harsh Reality Podcast's latest episode. You get some good insights into her, into D-Web, and what it is they're trying to do on their platforms. So check that out. So this prompt, the missing cultural link between African Americans and Afro-Caribbean peoples. Kare, you're here with me on the panel. Let me ask you first. Did you ever know of a connection between these Gullah people and the Caribbean?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just knew they were on the coast, on the islands between South Carolina and Georgia, but I never knew there was a link between them and the Caribbean.
So if you there's a direct link between Gullah people and Bahamian people. There's a Gullah Geechee Bahamian connection. Like Daily Affirmations by Pauline, who is Bahamian, just said in the chat, went to St. John's Island, South Carolina, and visited a Gullah village. Their baskets and language and food and lifestyle is just like ours in the Bahamas. Mr. Untouchable, you wanted to talk about this video. What says you about this missing link? What should we take? What should we take from it? This missing link between African Americans and Afro-Caribbean people.
The first thing is the fact that the Gullah people were brought really from Barbados into the Americas and into North America. I think that sometimes when we try to distinguish ourselves to be so distinctly different from one another, we should really take a second look.
Yep.
Because if you listen to the origin stories of how some peoples have gotten here, into the North America, people would be very, very surprised. Another thing too is if you was to just sit down and listen to some of the Geechees and the Gullah people talk, they said it was unintelligible. Yeah. Well, I listened to some of them talk, and it's like, for me, it was like listening to one of my grandparents talk too.
Plain as day.
Plain as day. Yes, man. It almost made me want to cry because for them, it was the person who was speaking. She was an older lady, and she was talking about how her grandparents used to sound. And I'm like, man, all you need to do is take a trip down to the Caribbean. You listen, you can hear that all day.
Absolutely.
So we kept a lot of the cultural mores and different things in the Caribbean that may have been, some of them may have been lost in going to the Americas. But I just really wanted people to see that we are family. Despite the fact that we may have little small distances between us, we are really family with one another. And that shouldn't be lost.
Yeah. I learned a little while back that I think I may have heard Mr. Untouchable bring it up on another platform, but I learned a little while back that in Trinidad and Tobago, all the way in the Southern Caribbean, all the way down, that there were Africans who were taken from America or who left America when they had the opportunity and went down into this area of Trinidad called Fifth Company, right? And those people are descendants of Africans in America, right? And the point you made about Barbados, that these folks came from Barbados, is a strong point again, because it shows you the shuffling back and forth of peoples, right? And I was talking to a friend of mine today, a friend of mine from Trinidad today, and we were talking about how, like, it's so crazy. You could be talking to a descendant of your father or mother's brother or sister and just never know, right? And they might call themselves being from St. Vincent or from Trinidad or Brazil or New Orleans or something, but that could be your long lost relative. And so we should just look at each other as family, keeping those things in mind,
Definitely. And another thing too is there is a belief that we was only able to move about the Caribbean into the Americas via agency of former slave masters. That's not necessarily 100% true. African peoples them moved about the Caribbean and the Americas really, shortly out, because if you look at the histories of a lot of these Caribbean places, a lot of these places were abandoned.
Yes.
By their slave owners. So we were really essentially left on our own. So people started getting on boats and traveling on our own to these different enclaves in the Caribbean and even into South Florida, and eventually they worked their way up into other places in the same and it worked really in the same way in the other direction. When people was really trying to get away from the different civil wars or independence or whatever have you in the Americas, they came to the Caribbean.
Yep.
So they was doing that by their own agencies. So I say you have a lot of intermixing, a lot of movement throughout, and I think that what I wanted to do with this video is to really show that we've been moving about long time ago. So the distinctions that we have sometimes is you really don't know who your forebears are.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mr. Untouchable, have you ever been to Barbados?
Not yet. I've been to Cuba and then some other Caribbean islands, but not Barbados yet. No.
Barbados is almost just like our hometown.
I don't doubt it.
Uncannily, it's just like our hometown.
I don't doubt it. When I'm in the world, outside the Western world, people always mistake you from Barbados. They give me two islands,
right?
Either from Barbados or Trinidad.
Yeah. So this divisiveness, this division is totally unnecessary. In the chat, the Harsh Reality Podcast said, Oyatunji African Village in Seabrook, South Carolina. Lots of African connections in South Carolina with the Gullah Geechee people as well. Yes, sir. Bobby E. Wright says there's also a connection between the Gullah people and the Gola people of Sierra Leone. I have a video about them I will send you. Yeah, by all means. You can see my email address in the top left-hand corner. Send that to me, man. I'd like to explore that a little bit more.
Yes, that is a greater connection for all of us. That's the greater link for all of us. You know, despite the fact that we're in the West, but that is for me, that's the greater connection, our connection to Sierra Leone and Liberia and other countries, other real continental African countries. So,
Absolutely. Daily affirmation by Pauline said, "My mother, who was Bahamian, always said when someone visited Nassau that they were just Geechees, aka Bahamians, who live in the States." You know, the thing about it too is wild. So, Mr. Untouchable, I don't know what island your family originally came from, but mine's originally comes from Eleuthera, right? And there was a time, like when I was growing up, my grandmother always talked about, like, she never knew her father, and she didn't know him because he left home to go on something called the project, right? Which was that time where there was a lot of development going on in America. And a lot of those guys, not just from where we're from, but from other parts of the Caribbean also. This is why I don't understand the whole ADOS thing of talking about we could trace ourselves to this and that. Listen, a lot of Caribbean folks, not just the Bahamas, but Jamaica, Trinidad, all these places way back in the day, 100 years ago and stuff, they came out here and they lived in places like South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Jacksonville, where D-Web and them is. Like, they came out here and they just never returned. They just became like Americans.
Absolutely. My grandfather was on the contract too.
Oh yeah?
Yes, he was on in South Florida.
You see?
And see, when people move about like he did come back. Okay. But when men move like that, they mess with the women wherever they are, you know, and some of them have kids.
Yep.
So it's like it's funny when you try, like I say, it's interesting when people try to really completely differentiate themselves when they really don't understand the movement of people through time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this idea of like pure Black American, pure Caribbean, pure this, pure that really needs to stop. The reality of it is, and again, due to the circumstances, I always think about, like, you know, like back home, there's a saying, like, someone will say about another person, like, my blood really takes to that person. Like, I really like that person. And you don't know why. Like, why do I like that person? I don't know why, but I really take to that person. Sometimes I believe some of that could be like an ancestral thing, man, where that person is just, you know, part of your family ancestrally, but you just don't know that.
Yes, you dig deep enough, and you might find out that's your cousin. That's your
man.
You know?
Yeah. And so we're in this predicament of not knowing our full lineage and all that kind of stuff. And so when that happens, the best thing we can do is just assume that we're all good. We're all family.
Yes. And I think that DNA is helping with that now.
It is.
It's helping and assisting with that now to really show and establish these country and cultural links that we really have with one another, but we really didn't know in the past. So
yeah, my friend who I was talking to earlier is from Trinidad, both parents from Trinidad, long history of being from that region, and he did 23andMe, and apparently on his father's side, a bunch of his family, like most of the family he could find, is from like Alabama and New Orleans and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You can't just sit up here and just try to pretend to be this pure group, and you know what I mean? It's just stupid. It's just
no such thing.
No such thing, and it doesn't benefit you either.
No, I think that really, you know, people play these little divide and conquer games, but that's been proven not to work. You know, you are stronger when you are collectively strong. But you know, I just really wanted to put that idea out there in the hemisphere, because we have this belief that when we are completely separated and apart from one another, we are stronger. I don't know why we have that psychology, but you know, you got to go back to the root at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Carre, any last words on this prompt? Kevin must be wanting to hold a fresh or something like that. Mr. Untouchable, any last words on this prompt?
No. I think we touch on a lot of things.
Yeah, I think we sufficiently talked about that. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, by the way, Tia and Tamara Maori found that a part of their heritage is Topham Bay Eleuthera, and they visited there. Yeah. I didn't realize it was Topham Bay. That's very interesting. That's where my grandparents come from. But I knew that they had Bahamian roots. Beyonce's mother, it's Beyonce's father. That's a Bahamian, I think.
Some I think either is Grammy or Mom Daddy or somewhere down the line.
Yeah, somewhere down the line. Yeah. So it these connections. Yeah. So
Sorry, I stepped away real quick. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good. But it's important. I think Mr. Untouchable hit something on the head too. It's just important to understand also that it wasn't some person, some race, some group that made it so that you could move back and forth. African folks have been moving around in the West for a long time, man. You know, Haiti was accepting anyone who could make it there. You know, how many folks in Haiti came from a plantation here and vice versa? You know what I mean? So
that is true. I think that also needs to be said. We have to have really a big sit down as far as history goes, because Haiti did invite anyone who reached the shores of Haiti. I think it was in their constitution. They say once you reach the shores here, you are a free man. And that went out to a lot of different places. And there were people who actually, trudged that distance and reach Haiti too. You know what I mean? So all these historical things, I feel like it should be said and put out there in the ethosphere.
Absolutely. I appreciate that prompt, Mr. Untouchable. By the way, if you're listening live to the show, you can comment in the chat, and I will read your comments. I'll even display them at times on the screen. You can comment, and you could be a part of the conversation. If you want to vocalize your thoughts, you can click the link I've posted several times, that StreamYard link. You don't have to have any extra equipment. If you're on your phone, that's fine. In fact, that's probably best. If you're on your phone, click the link. I'll let you into the studio. You don't have to have a camera on or anything. Just come and state what it is you want to say. The next prompt is going up now. And the next prompt, Shoot the Breeze, topic number 2, is about how France is using the internet to brainwash Africa. This is potentially very interesting here. How France is using the internet to brainwash Africa. I've been telling people a long time, there's a lot you could do with this internet. Don't get it twisted. A lot of folks are using this internet for their own devices. We can use it for ours as well. Let me share the screen. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to mute my mic. We'll watch this and then we'll talk about it after.
Here is your latest African news. Facebook accuses the French military of online brainwashing targeting Africans. Facebook accuses people linked to the French military on the 15th of December of running a covert online influence operation targeting parts of Africa. It's the first time Facebook has publicly linked a campaign like this to individuals connected to a Western military. According to Facebook, the operations targeted the Central African Republic and Mali, and to a lesser extent, Niger, Burkina Faso, Algeria, Côte d'Ivoire, and Chad. The deceptive tactics allegedly used, which include using Facebook to pose as locals in the targeted countries, mirror misinformation campaigns run by the Russian government. Facebook staff told reporters on a press call on Tuesday that the company could not say if the operation was directed by the French military itself. They only said it was run by individuals associated with the military. Facebook said the alleged French accounts posted primarily in French and Arabic about news and current affairs, including France's policies in Francophone Africa, the security situation in various African countries, claim of potential Russian interference in the election in the Central African Republic, supported commentary about African military, and criticism of Russia's involvement in the Central African Republic. Elections are due to take place in the Central African Republic later this year. Facebook said it tied about 100 Facebook and Instagram accounts and pages to the alleged operation tied to people linked to the French military. The pages had about 5,000 followers on Facebook, the company said. 2 separate networks of Russian pages, both allegedly linked to a Russian troll group, were also removed. Those people had about 6 million followers, Facebook said. Facebook now regularly announces removals of networks of fake accounts it can link to nation states and other foreign entities. In a statement, the French Defense Ministry did not confirm or deny possible French military involvement in the alleged operation. Facebook has now removed the accounts and also announced that it had removed accounts also posing as Africans that were linked to the Russian troll groups. This goes to show that you should take everything you read on the internet with a grain of salt, especially if it's in support of Western and Chinese influences in Africa. Thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss.
Yes, sir. So we're not too surprised by this, are we? I mean, D-Web talks about this on Twitter all the time, about the bots and stuff that's being employed. My big question, and we'll talk about it, I guess, at the end of this conversation on this prompt, is why aren't African or Black equals African people using the same type of tactics to target their own people? Mr. Untouchable, what says you to this story?
Oh, when you for that question, I am a propagandist too. Mm-hmm. but I'm on Team Gavi. So my thing is, I'm using my voice. I'm using the whatever mechanisms that I could use as far as the internet goes to act as a counter to what these people are trying to do. If you listen to that, broadcast, they said that there were even some people posing as Africans.
Yep.
So I'm saying, and you said that it was the bots, but I'm saying that could be also people too. You know, people they get, some of these people are paid influencers, and they get paid a whole lot of money, really, for battling for the hearts and minds of Africans on the continent and Africans in the West as well. I think that we should get that. You know, so you see these personalities pop up with particular bent views, and you wonder why they are so anti. So you have to ask yourself, where are these people coming from? What's their motivation in doing what they're doing? You know, so that's and it's not only France who's doing this, by the way.
Right.
Let me put that out there. There are other countries who are battling for the hearts and minds of the Black mind in France, in Europe, in England, and in the United States as well. So we have to be the counters for what these guys try to put out there into the hemisphere.
The Harsh Reality Podcast, that's D-Web in the chat, says the power of media. It's why networks like this exist. I think he's talking about KWAZ Radio. We should take anything on these platforms with a grain of salt. The learning curve, you know who that is. That's the revolutionary matron. She says we refuse to do the work. We lazy. No one wants to work together to provide credibility. No one wants to own the narrative. So, Mr. Untouchable, I don't know if you caught it, but I did a show on Thursday talking about Pan-African media and unity with the workers. And a lot of what was discussed is exactly the same, you know, is exactly the reason why KWAZ Radio was started, right? Because you got to understand, these guys are editing, these guys are creating and crafting their narratives, and we got to get away from their talking points. We got to get away from their news and their media. We got to get the straight dope, the straight information from our folks, right? This is why, you know, like the matron just said, every Black person should be supporting and should be divesting from major media, even many aspects of social media, unless you could prove it's a Black equals African person behind that media, right? And not someone who's a puppet for Reuters or CNN or the BBC or whatever, right? We got to start doing this work ourselves for ourselves. And in particular, when it comes to propaganda, again, I'm going to say it, if these guys could work propaganda on us, why can't we do that same? Work positive propaganda on our people to do more and to be more. Last thing I'll say before I go to Kevin Carre. On Instagram, every time I post that I have a new episode coming up, I'm always hit with what I assume to be bots from these quote unquote pro-black clothing agencies or what have you, who want to talk to me, want me to reach out to their owner or whatever, to speak about, doing I guess advertisements or whatever. But you could look at the nature of what's going on. You could tell it's some white person who is perpetrating a fraud, right? Acting to be black, to sell some black wear because they understand that there's a market there. Why aren't we understanding that market? Kevin Carre, what say you to this?
Well, the problem is a lot of us are afraid of being shamed. There are people out there that started doing it, talking out against the larger society, and then the bought and paid for Negroes is the one that always comes in, Al Sharpton, and talk them down.
Right.
Then on top of that, there are people out there that want to support them that don't support them because there's so much apathy going on. And that's always the key word right there, apathy.
Mm-hmm. The Harsh Reality Podcast in the chat says, learn to spot propaganda is actually a skill. We need to teach courses to our youth and even most adults on how to recognize it and also thoroughly research. So I agree with what Webb is saying. And what I'm saying to that too is, like, the thing with Black equals African people is we would trust another Black equals African person, right? If they show themselves to be somewhat trustworthy. I think what we got to start doing is we got to start taking control of narratives, right? And have that led by Black folks so that our youth and stuff come up respecting our people who are in control of these narratives, who are proving themselves every day that what they say is true. There's no added analysis. There's no hidden agendas, etc. Mr. Untouchable, what say you to that?
I agree, and I agree with D-Web as well. We need to teach our kids to spot nonsense from sense, and we need to teach them historical things and just certain truths. So when they hear narratives that are counter to that, their ears already are perked up, And these people they are serious about the business of really trying to influence the hearts and minds of people, even if it means sometimes using even African voices. You see, I was just on this program tonight listening to a guy, and he was from Africa. He had nothing good to say about Africa, nothing. So I'm saying to myself, something is wrong with this picture.
Yeah.
But I just think that you guys are both right. We need to do some more in-depth analysis and point out the fakes when we see it and explain why, in a very simplified way, so people could really decide for themselves.
Absolutely.
Hey, remember also too, now they have AI that can make it look just like me and you. You'll never know that's not even a real Black person. That doesn't even exist.
That's true too.
And they also have our voice modulations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they are busy. They are busy about going about doing the things that they do. I say that we should get busy too.
Yes,
that's my point.
I
agree. Matron says we need to do the work. So if they could get up in the morning and do what they do, I could get up in the morning and do something that's counter to what they doing. So we all in an even keel.
Exactly. Like Bob Marley said, evil don't take a vacation, man. So we gotta stop being lazy too. The Learning Curve, the Revolutionary Matron, says Africans need to stop selling their image. What say you to that, Kevin Carre?
They're right. We have to control our image. You know, when I was first got into this game, I was always hungry. You know, as a young artist, to be sorry, to be seen. You know, so I would let non-black people use my photos in their magazine.
Mm-hmm.
They became big, and what they did was kick me to the curb. That's why I learned a very hard lesson from there. But they were exploiting me just to get to where they need to be, and then they kick you down.
Mm-hmm.
We need to control our stuff even more to this day, because if we don't, like, look what happened in the 60s. A lot of those civil rights, film we used to see back in the 80s on, like, PBS or wherever, a lot of it now has just totally disappeared. And I bet a lot of the people that own the rights to those videos and photos are white people. These hipsters, or should we say liberals.
Mm-hmm.
We have to start claiming, taking our own, sending our own out there, doing video, doing film, all that stuff, and control, and just copyright your work. Copyright it.
But Kevin Carre, what everyone's hearing you say right now, well, not everyone, but what a lot of people, a lot of Black equals African people are hearing you say right now is work, 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 more work, 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 et cetera, and so on and so forth. And I think as a group, we have a disdain or an aversion to work. Mr. Untouchable, what say you to that?
I think that I don't think that we have an aversion over. I think it's what kind of work we are doing. I think that everyone really wants to do something that they love to do, and when they see the benefits of what they do, I don't think the people will mind, doing working, But I think that how we look at work as a drudgery. Yeah, I mean, but work doesn't always have to be a drudgery. There are some great benefits to work, man.
Wait. First, let's define something. What do you think? What kind of work are you talking about?
When people work, when they think of work, they think of the 9 to 5s. You have.
I'm talking about liberation work.
Oh, okay. okay. We talk about something completely different.
Right.
All right.
I just wanted to clarify. Yeah.
For us, I think that as far as liberation work, I think it's an uphill climb.
Yeah.
Pan-Africanism has never been a completely popular thing throughout our populations. It's always been perceived in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
So we never really had large, even back in the days of Marcus Garvey, and the fact that he had the largest movement, he still didn't, collectively get the majority of the Black people.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, if I was to even go back to the plantations, not every slave wanted to be free. Some people was comfortable living with their existence, knowing that they're gonna be fed, they're gonna be taken care of, they're gonna have a house to live under. So freedom means really responsibility, responsibility as self. And not everybody wants that. They want the comfort of someone else taking care of them. So it's a work to be free. You have to think out everything that you need to do, or every move you need to make.
Yep.
That freedom comes with a price, man.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, that's as far as how you define it as work. It's liberation work. Whole different ball game. Yes, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have, because you see, as you were saying prior to that, when you thought we were talking about 9 to 5 work, people like to see rewards for their work. And in this liberation thing, you're not going to see rewards anytime soon per se. But there is a way, and this is what I want Black folks to understand. Get used to the idea of small wins, and then start to aggregate those small wins into bigger wins. You understand? If you want to be an author, maybe you don't try to start writing a goddamn textbook, but you write a novella or something, or you write a comic book, or something of that nature. Start small, get yourself a couple of small victories, and then we can move on to bigger things. But I think our people in particular, and I heard Charlemagne the God say this one time, and we're going to talk about Charlemagne later tonight. Charlemagne said something like, he would like black people to understand that not every opportunity has a paycheck attached to it. Sometimes this work, you're going to work, and you won't see much benefit. As a matter of fact, and I think this is where black folks really mess up, because a lot of black folks aren't going to see the benefit of the work in their lifetime. They don't want no parts of it because they can't see the end. But we got to stop that thinking, because that's the thinking that makes it where every one of our children, right, have to start from scratch. Every generation, you got to start from scratch again and try to see if something, if you hit a lick and something happens. No, we have to learn how to put off that desire for like instant gratification, put in that work, and understand that when you pass on, you pass the baton on to others who will pick up the work and take it even further than you did. In the chat, there's been a few comments. Bobby Wright says, I agree 100%. Some Africans don't want the responsibility of nationhood. We don't understand that we are working for our children and grandchildren, not just ourselves. Absolutely. Appreciate that comment. The learning curve says, stop working for what you want and begging for what you need. That should go on a t-shirt, right? Stop working for what you want and begging for what you need. The Harsh Reality podcast earlier said, I don't think most want to work. I see more movements putting in effort, begging for checks from people that hate us than actually building something tangible or supporting others doing the work. And that's nothing but a word right there. I appreciate that, D-Web. D-Web also says incrementalism, big facts. Small victories eventually lead to large movements. Absolutely. The learning curve says we are fighting our great-great-grandparents' battle because they stopped. Ouch.
I am in complete agreement with D Web. That statement, that statement right there, incrementalism. That is a wonderful statement, word, incrementalism. I think that if we get that really ingrained inside our community, we'll be really the better for it, because we don't understand that America didn't start in 2021. You see
Right.
this great nation for what it is right now. America started as Bush.
Yep.
And the people who had originally came seeking so-called freedom, as far as that's how the narrative goes,
Right.
they didn't think, if you was to bring them from when they originally came to America and show them what America has become, they would be God's mark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that but they worked and they built for the lives of their future people, and eventually it incrementally became the nation it became.
Yes.
And I think that we, as far as having the idea of nationhood in our minds, understand that our work should extend beyond our lifetime, because the prize is nationhood. And nationhood don't take 2 days or 20 days or 30 days. And if you want for it, that's okay. You know what I mean? But for the others, we got work to do.
We have work to do. Roll up your sleeves. We got work to do.
And there's nothing more rewarding than, you know, you're breathing your last breath, but you're knowing that, well, that little thing that you started years ago, that your descendants are going to be taken care of, and their descendants are going to be taken care of. So they'll have a little bit more breathing room. There's no better way to go, you know, go to the next plane.
Absolutely. Yeah, when, you know, instead they have y'all thinking about your reward in heaven and all this old shit, you know. But these guys, our enemies are stockpiling and setting up wins for people they'll never meet on this earth. Bill Gates and them guys, they have stockpiled resources for folks who will carry the name Gates, perhaps, right? Who he'll never meet. never ever meet, not on this earth. You know, we gotta start thinking like that, man. We gotta come off this selfish thinking that we tend to have, and that's the only way I can really categorize it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I always ask someone, like, there's this dude, he always hung around a lot of the Asians, and I'm telling him, the history of all that. He's a young dude too, and I'm telling him the history of all, the conflict, and I'll tell him about Latasha Harlins, and this dude's like, yeah, man, these are my brothers. I'm like, okay, I got a question for you. If you should get in a fight with one of them, you think they'll take your side over their own people?
Right. No, they won't. Bottom line. Daily affirmation by Pauline, who says, my son runs a DM. I don't know what that is. I'm not certain. So if you could clarify that, I'll double back to that. But yeah, we have to, I think everyone in the chat, D-Web, the Revolutionary Matron, Mr. Untouchable, Kevin Carre, Bobby Wright, I think we all tackle that well. It's incrementalism, man. Take your time, but be about it. And if you ain't about it, just say you ain't about it. Take your ass over to the side somewhere and let other folks come together, roll up their sleeves, put their thoughts together and activities and get it done. Any last words on this prompt, guys?
Yeah, one last thing.
Go ahead.
China has a 1,000-year plan. Yes, they have a 1,000-year plan. So that they know, and in fact, that their efforts are not is really bigger than them. And we need to have the idea of what that bigger than them attitude, that long-term idea of, hey, I'm working and I have to be careful of what I do, because if I put something in the water pool, it might have a ripple effect that's going to destroy me. And as far as my generation goes, we need to start thinking on a generational level. Your lifespan is not long enough for you to get all the things that you feel in this world that you need to get. It extends beyond you. You are just a spoke in the wheel of the ancestors who came before you. We need to go back to ancestor worship business and all that nonsense. But don't we call it nonsense? But all that stuff, we need to go back to that idea, because we just really are temporary spokes in the wheel. And in our efforts and our work, what we put in that pool will have a ripple effect that is a positive one for everyone concerned. So when people look at our picture 100 years from now, they would kiss it rather than kick it and throw it in the floor.
I have a friend whose ancestor had some property in the islands. So he has one of those stories where he has a white ancestor, even though he's a black person. Fully black person, but he has his surname comes from some white ancestor, and that white ancestor, when they were getting old, decided that all the land that he owned, he wasn't going to leave it for the black offspring he created, the black family he created. He left it for some neighbor, right? So my friend, to this day, when you bring up that name of the ancestor, him and his siblings, they just want to spit on the name. They wish they didn't have the name. And so I bring it up just to say that we don't want to be the people, like Mr. Untouchable just said, about our pictures being kissed and not kicked. We don't want to be the assholes in the future where folks are spitting on our name because we were here and didn't do nothing. Right? That's something I want black folks to really keep in mind. Daily affirmation by Pauline says, my son owns a small food business and wants to get other young people to do the same. He earns a decent living. He has a problem finding young people willing to give up the 9 to 5. Yeah, you're going to have that problem. Especially with our folks. You're going to have that problem. Our folks, I'll be honest, like I said, that Charlemagne story about opportunities with checks attached. Our folks tend to like opportunities with checks attached. And if our folks can't see a windfall, like a relatively sizable windfall, our folks saying we just ain't gonna do it. A lot of folks will say you're gonna go through all that to own a small food business and make that that little bit of money. I'd rather go sell dope, right? I'd rather go stick up some people. I'd rather go sit down and work for my enemy, right? Like, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
Hey, Koku, they could, like I say, people. I don't fight people choices, but don't get mad at me when you fast forward that small food business 20 years later, and I franchised it and opened it up in different states, and now I'm doing much better and making money for myself, good money for myself, and I could feed my family and the families of other people. Don't get mad and jealous and envious of me now, because you had a choice. You decided to stick with the 9 to 5 rather than trying to dig in, because time is important. Time is very important. How you spend your time is very important.
Time is more valuable than money.
I believe that. And if you decide to put your time in the billions of other people's enterprises, because that's what you're essentially doing.
Yeah.
You're putting your time and effort in other people's enterprises and not your own and not yourself. You ain't taking a risk on you, but you would do whatever you need to do you will exert your life force in other people's enterprises. All I'm saying is, don't get mad at me when you fast forward the result of that 10, 20 years later, and I'm good, and you still looking at the 9 to 5 and got to wake up at 9 on Monday morning, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Don't get mad at me then, because I had a long-term plan and you did not. And I took a risk with myself and you did not.
Hey, Mr. Untouchable, you're so right. Remember last year when we all had that long time off?
Yeah.
A lot of people were out there just doing nothing, watching
bullshitting. Bullshitting.
Yeah, watching OnlyFans, chucking off money. Oh, I'm getting $600 a week. I'm like, yo, okay, this is not gonna be here forever. I gotta pay off some debt. I gotta buy some stocks. I gotta buy some cryptos. And look what happened to those people that bought those cryptos. When they were cheap, like Dogecoin, right?
Right.
They paid like $1,000. They used that stimulus check. They paid like $1,000, and on the day of that run, they became millionaires overnight because they believed in something. But people didn't use this time wisely. Now look where they are now, miserable.
Yes, and if you look at the major enterprises that exist in America, McDonald's didn't start as a mega multi-international corporation. They started as a small mom and pop franchise.
Yep.
I mean, just look at the beginning stages of many enterprises in the United States, and you will see that these are people who took risks. And eventually they garnered great reward. And I think that as a people group, collectively, we too safe.
Too safe.
Yeah.
Too safe.
We're too used to convenience. Oh, I can get like whatever I want. Oh, let me order on Amazon. When that day comes, when Amazon ain't gonna be around anymore, what are you gonna do?
Too safe. Yeah, a lot of people who are wealthy today have a recent ancestor. A lot of white folks who are wealthy today have a relatively recent ancestor who is the architect of that wealth today, who never saw that wealth, by the way. You understand? There's guys who came to the U.S. as immigrants or whatever, worked hard, invested in the stock market or you know what I mean? And they died. But what they did, the children was able to pick up, or the grandchildren was able to pick up, and so forth and so on. That's how we have to look at this thing. We have to go all out in the time that we have, and we don't know when this time runs out. But the time that we have, man, put in that work, push those products out there. I saw Onita say the other day is working on this a puzzle book. And it hit me like, I've never seen an African-centered puzzle book before. After I saw him do that. Yeah, put that out there. Put that out there. That will be the enjoyment of many in the future. And that will inspire others to say, hey, let me do something African-centered. And eventually you'll get this thing to snowball into a positive outcome for ourselves.
Yes, sir. As D Web said, incrementalism. Get it down in your spirit. You know,
incrementalism. So to Daily Affirmations with Pauline. I'm sorry, I think I cut off Kevin Carey for a second.
No worries.
For Daily Affirmations with by Pauline, you tell your son that don't worry about the rest of them youths who ain't about nothing or who ain't on your run. Go and do what you got to do. Like Mr. Untouchable said, you'll be surprised how a food truck becomes an actual dine-in restaurant in the future. Kevin Carey, what say you?
Yeah, as you said, it won't be about me. It's going to be about us. Like, you guys help me grow. I grow to a certain point where I'm making so much money. Guess what? You guys are coming up now.
Right.
And then you can feed someone behind you.
Right. And it's not just about the money too. It's just do positive works. Let's see those small wins. Let's have a trail of small wins, right? It could be making money. It could be making generational wealth. That's fine too. But there's other things that need to happen as well, right? The Pro-Black Perspective says hopefully in terms of that book I was shouting out, right? By the way, when that book comes out, I would like to buy it, Mr. Untouchable.
No. Yes. You said that it was not all about money, and you are right. I think that what happens with us is the process is forgotten.
Yeah.
We usually see either you're broke or you're very wealthy, but nobody explains to us the process.
Right.
And I think that some of us, especially the olders, they die without explaining. I mean, you have libraries die when a man dies, and he wouldn't sit down and tell you what the process from you getting from point A to point B to point C. He wouldn't sit down and let you know that. And I think that that's an important thing to exchange outside of money, the process. Donald Trump, daddy, explained to him the game.
Yep.
He gave him the game. He could have got $20 when he died, but he understood the game so much so that he could have taken that $20 and make that into 20 million. The game, the process, and I think that that's important to important thing to be exchanged to outside of money.
Yeah, because what I like in college, for example, what I found valuable. If you're about to take a class, it's common to ask someone who took the class before, how was the class, this, that, and the other. A lot of people will talk to the person who got an A+ in the class. Me personally, I used to like talking to people who got through the class, who got a C+, or whatever. And the reason is because that person who got that C+, they could tell you not only what they did to pass the class, they could tell you what they didn't do as well. A lot of times what we don't get, we don't get the information of folks who say, you know what, I should have done this. Had I done this back then, this would be the case. So in other words, if this ever comes your way, don't miss it. You know what I'm saying? If this thing ever comes your way, don't you miss it. Go ahead, Mr. Untouchable.
Yes, but I want to add on what you said. The last week, your sons was talking about, well, Daddy, what about fairness? What about fairness? You have them. It's like, look, because you lived the situation, and you understood the situation. Like, look, let me tell you about fairness. So you give them the game, so you disabuse them of that idea in their head completely. So now they're ahead of the game rather than behind it.
Exactly.
You understand? So that's a part of passing on the process and understanding what the game is. Okay, I could play it differently because Daddy didn't tell me you don't play it that way. You know what I mean?
Forget about that fairness talk. Yeah. Your job is to keep it close. So let's go into Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. I think we talked about that one pretty well. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 is about Haiti. How Haiti indirectly helped to create the modern USA. I think I have a link for this as well. I believe the matron might have talked about this not that long ago. But let's discuss it here. Let me just set it up so I can share my screen with you guys. So I'm going to share the screen again. We're going to watch the video. We'll come back. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Haiti is one of two countries, along with the Dominican Republic, located on the island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean. With a land size of 27,750 square kilometers, or 10,714 square miles, and an estimated population of 11.4 million persons, Haiti is the third largest Caribbean territory by land size and the territory with the largest population. Despite such large figures, in comparison to countries outside the Caribbean, Haiti would be considered a small country. One may therefore ask, what impact can such a small country make? Well, let's investigate an interesting account of how Haiti helped to create one of the largest countries in the world and one of the most powerful economies in human history, the United States of America. In 1803, the United States purchased 827,000 square miles of land west of the Mississippi River from France for US $15 million. In today's money, that would be equivalent to US $600 billion. This land purchase allowed the United States to acquire land that, in today's geographical terms, would make up 15 states and parts of 2 Canadian provinces. The purchase increased not only the United States land acquisition and ownership, but it also increased their chances of attaining wealth, becoming the world's foremost economic and military power. The purchase of such a vast expanse of land would not have been possible for the Americans if it were not for a resilient group of freed slaves on a small island in the Caribbean and a panicking French emperor. The French Empire controlled the territory of Louisiana, which was called the Louisiana Territory of New France, from 1699 to 1762. It was then ceded to the Spanish during the Treaty of Fontainebleau in 1762. This gave the Spanish vast amounts of untapped land, which was further cemented with France's defeat to Spain during the 7 Years' War, which was fought between 1756 and 1763. This allowed for Spain to control everything west and Britain to control everything east of the Mississippi River. The British controlled everything east of the river until 1776 with the success of the American Revolution. All that changed in the year 1800 when Napoleon Bonaparte was introduced as the first French consul of the French Republic. Napoleon was the new face of French power and the French identity after the events of the French Revolution, which lasted for a decade from 1789 to 1799. In a secret meeting labeled the Third Treaty of San Ildefonso, France exchanged territories in Tuscany, Italy, for the colony of Louisiana with Spain. Then President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, had expressed the newly formed United States intention of purchasing the port city of New Orleans first, and then purchasing lands in Louisiana step by step. The Americans saw Spain as a weakening power, but France's regaining of the colony sparked fear and concern, with Jefferson stating that the acquisition of land by France under Napoleon would cause the Americans to seek allegiance with their former masters, Britain, and might even spark a newly reformed slave trade or task force regime. The possibility of the Americans acquiring the land seemed unlikely, and France's newly refreshed dominance in the Western Hemisphere seemed on the rise, until Haiti. The Haitian Revolution began in 1791 and lasted until 1804. What happened during that time on the Caribbean territory, then known as Saint Domingue, was nothing short of bloody, gruesome, and chaotic. However, the impact of the event changed history forever. After the end of the French Revolution in 1799, the ideals of equal rights for all human beings rang throughout the Americas and the Caribbean. However, the revolution had left France in financial difficulty. As a result, heavy tariffs were placed against planters stationed in Haiti who were importing produce from France. The Haitian planters, in return, were not allowed to trade with any other external power. This limited growth in a colony that was, by far, the crown jewel of the Kingdom of France. The colony produced 40% of all sugar and 60% of all coffee imported by Europe, and France sent over 800,000 African slaves to Haiti. That's more than double the number of slaves sent by France to the entire North American continent. Revolutionaries such as Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines were the main champions of the revolution, leading strategic military advances against French troops, defeating both the French army and the navy. Louverture was captured and died in prison in 1803, 1 year before the end of the revolution. Dessalines finished the task, leading a final successful revolt in 1804, signaling the birth of the Second Republic in the Western Hemisphere after the United States, and the first independent state governed by ex-African slaves in history. The Haitian Revolution left a deep scar on the military might and the resources of the French kingdom turned empire, with over 2/3 of all French troops that were sent to Haiti being killed. The loss of the colony also hurt France economically, giving way for Napoleon to consider other ways of acquiring money to fund his war efforts, especially his advances throughout Europe. US President Thomas Jefferson did not recognize the Haitian state in an effort to build a good relationship with France, with the aim of acquiring New Orleans and some of the territory from the Louisiana colony. Things worked out even better for the Americans. The loss of Haiti was so great to France that Napoleon, in desperation for funds, sold the entire colony of Louisiana, all 827,000 square miles of it, to the United States for $15 million. Result, the Louisiana Purchase more than doubled the size of the United States, allowing them to acquire lands that later on would be discovered as having precious minerals and resources such as gold and oil. The Louisiana Purchase in today's money costs over US $600 billion, and today the land purchase is well worth over US $2 trillion. Because of the initiative of a few African slaves on a Caribbean island and the willingness of a French emperor to sell, the United States, though already birthed, truly began to bloom, paving the way in becoming the massive expanse of land and the economic superpower that it is today.
Yes, indeed. Interesting story there. Kevin Carre, is there any surprises for you in that story?
None, none. As Bobby Wright said, Haiti also played a major role in the liberation. Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia by supplying Simon Bolivar forces with arms and financial support. Haiti has done a lot. They've done a lot. It just shows you the importance when black people stick together. What we can do.
And before I go to Mr. Untouchable, it also shows again where we have to control the instruments of media and instruments of communication, like communicating history. A lot of folks, if Razuli was here, he'll probably tell you. A lot of folks will tell you when they came from Haiti to America how they were treated poorly, and by black folks in America. And the reality of it is we owe so much to what Haiti did in its time, in its heyday. But because a lot of our people haven't gotten that history with the attached respect, the necessary prerequisite respect to put on that country, this is where you have the disrespect. And frankly, because of what has happened to Haiti since about 1915 in particular, it's left to look like a nation that isn't or shouldn't be respected as well. And that's something I think Africans in the West need to fix as well. I think Africans in the West need to come together with Haiti and change the fortunes of that country. Mr. Untouchable, what says you to this video?
Two things. The first thing is, it's interesting how Western powers say thank you for how they say thank you for your work or what you have done. And this is a indirect response to some people who believe because their ancestors would have built that country, they don't, the people who own the country, they don't give a shit about what you did as far as putting in the work and the efforts to really be the foundation of building that nation. Because Haiti was integral, even though it was indirectly, they was integral in helping or assisting Haiti, America to become 50 whatever nations, states, and also, the fact that Haiti also was trying to, was permitting, the people who were enslaved in the American colonies, if you were to come to the country, you were a free man.
Yeah.
So when I see images of Haitians being whipped at the border,
yeah,
I see the ingratitude of the white Americans, and then when I see that when I see some people who cheering in the background saying, "Well, that's good for them. They need to get whooped." They don't remember. Well, we was telling you all to come, and you all could have been free if you all reach here. So I don't know. I just see the ingratitude, because we don't might not necessarily know our history and where we come from and all these intricate things, because history is a messy thing.
Yeah.
And if you really don't know the messiness of history, you think it was just a straight line.
No.
History take a lot of hills and valleys and turns, and really to understand a people and different nuances of different peoples, you really need to dig in and really, really read the past to understand, where people coming from. But
just the idea that history is usually written by the victor is an important thing, because right there you'll run into a lot of dead ends. If you think history is linear, you'll run into a lot of dead ends with history, because the victor writes it when there's really a much more nuanced accounts in history that a lot of people don't get. You mentioned something, Mr. Untouchable, about the folks who cry out like we built this shit. They don't talk about the fact that, well, you wouldn't have had New Orleans, Louisiana, and that area there had it not been, again, indirectly, I guess you could say, for Haiti, right? How do those folks reconcile that bit of information?
And I also want to say, Koku, when they talk about the Louisiana Purchase, it wasn't just because the idea people have in their minds is just Louisiana as the state.
Right. It wasn't.
The Louisiana enterprise, or the French whatever enterprise encompass all the way up to Canada. That whole space, 15 states. You know what I mean? So we get mystified with this idea we're here in Louisiana, and we just limit it to the state in modern day parlance. when it really extends far beyond that state into the 15 different areas extending towards Canada itself. That's the vast amount of land that was sold by Napoleon.
Good point to add in there. I like that. Good point. The learning curve says only power speaks. Until we acknowledge our power and act on it, we will continually be enslaved. So what can we do? Because again, it's an information. I think it's a information type thing. Information is curated. Like, how many people in the chat right now probably didn't know this entire story? You know what I mean? Now, well, folks here will probably know because it's conscious folks here. But how many folks who will come across this video tomorrow or next week who didn't really know that? In fact, how many Haitian people don't know that story?
That's why I wish Razuli was here tonight. She is here tonight.
Yeah.
I wish she was here tonight. You know?
Yeah. How many of us really know that story? Go ahead.
No, Koku, as we was talking about earlier, we are putting this information out there, not necessarily for us. You know, it gonna come. Somebody gonna come across it maybe after we didn't go on the internet, gonna vastly develop. But when they dig into the pages, they may find a Better Medicine podcast, and you know, move to action and watching these things. I don't really do it for a temporary situation. I do it for the future.
The future, yeah. Yes. Good point. Janelle Benjamin in the chat says important story to be told. Absolutely, because let me tell you something. If I come from a country where I go to a country where your country wouldn't be what it is today had it not been for the actions or the victories of my home country, you really can't tell me shit, you know. All y'all down in Louisiana and all going up towards Canada, you really black, white, and you can't really tell me nothing, you know. So there's an importance to this stuff too. We talked about symbolism last week, but not all symbolism is bad if you're creating the symbolism, right? This is supposed to be taught to all black folks in the Western Hemisphere. And to be honest with you, I did world history back home. I think I might have learned that in world history, but I really got it solid when I came to the States, right? We're just not getting this information. And our people, you know, we had scholars like Dr. John Henry Clark, etc., who would regale audiences with these stories, but we don't really have that now. What I think we have more now is folks who are putting personal agendas first, grifting, and not really getting to the brass tacks of history and using that history to direct the minds of the youth to be strong based on that history and to do something historical themselves. Mr. Untouchable, you want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say we are the John Henry Clarks. You know, we are the Amos Wilsons and Wilsons. We are the Francis Cress Welsings, because they are past now. They put the information out there for us to decipher it and pass it on. You know, for us to keep and mentally masturbate it with one another is for us to accept it and pass on. So we are that stream. Like I say, we are the spoke in the wheel. So we are the new propagandists to get out there this information and use it in a way. So when we pass it on, our forebears can take it on further. So because we need to get the message out there, you know what I mean? Spread it as much as possible, because, you know, that's our fight. You know what I mean? Just to carry it on, you know?
I agree. I was recently saying on one of these episodes I was doing how, you know, and in fact, the matron actually says it often too. Like, the elders already told us what to do and what to know, and so it becomes this thing where we come and we have to repeat it. Like you just said, we have to become the Amoses and the Francises and the Johns, you know, etc. now, But the one little thing I want to add to that is we too have to do stuff. We too have to actually have something to show for all of this rhetoric, right? Because they did that work. They talked about this before. We supposed to actually do something about what they spoke about before, because we got to start. What I'm trying to get at is we got to start creating a culture of doing stuff, a culture of getting stuff done, not just understanding the assignment, but actually finishing the assignment. Would you agree with that, Kevin Curry?
Fully agree. Yes. As we spoke about, we said last problem about last year. During that time, it was boring, had nothing to do. I'm like, listen, may as well get these books done and out of the way. Bam, ready for market.
Yeah, we got to be doers. Mr. Untouchable, you have the last word on this problem.
No, I agree. I second your commentary. We are charged to take it further. We are charged just to take it a little bit further than they took it. So I agree, and I'm in full agreement with the panelists.
Yes, sir. All right, I'm going to post prompt number 4, but I also want to say this. Thanks, Janelle Benjamin, for that comment. Important story to be told. Absolutely. I also want to say thank you to you guys for tuning in tonight. You might not realize it, but this show is being simulcast, if you will, to Twitter. It's also being shown on the KWAZ radio YouTube channel. And I'm doing this as a test, really. In this upcoming new Roman year, I'm going to do an exclusive show on Thursday nights. It'll only be on KWAZ radio. So I hope you guys will tune in over there. Make sure to subscribe. Click the bell to be notified for new content being placed up there, because I will be doing that on Thursdays this coming year and going forward. Bobby Wright says, I agree, Brother Koku. We have to do the work. Yeah, we're parroting and we're repeating the same things that have been said. In fact, if we're talking Garvey and all, we're talking stuff like 100 years now. If you're talking Delaney and them, we're talking over that time. And we know what needs to be done. We really got to get to doing it. We've got to devise a plan. I invite all of you, as a matter of fact, join the Discord that I have. The link is in the description. Join the Discord and let's get to talking about like actual tangible things that we can do. You know what I mean? Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 is up. Judges have a biased view even before sitting on the bench to adjudicate cases. Let me share this video with you guys.
According to the...
Sorry about that. Share the screen. Let's watch this video, and then we'll talk about it.
The narrative, there's a judge who has been caught using the N-word. Let me go directly to the video and give you background. Here it is.
Mom goes, why are the lights
when I pull up in the whip, they be saying, God damn.
Like, why are your lights on? They're like, pull up.
And mom's yelling,
Jen, we have like a roach.
look, that's me.
No, that's
on the backside.
Look, he trips over the He trips twice. He tripped twice.
I was the only one running. That's me. Kenny was standing. I'm the one that took him down. Kenny's just standing there.
He lied. That was his wallet.
Nothing brings joy to a bigoted family like collectively using the N-word together. I mean, they were really happy. They were bonding. Okay, a video has surfaced. This story's still developing, but we got a lot of details now. A video has surfaced capturing racist remarks dropped casually in a Lafayette City court judge's home as her family gathered to watch home security footage of a foiled car burglary in their driveway. Let's put up a picture of the judge. Her name is Michelle Odenet. All right, that's Judge Michelle, right? In the clip, which Lafayette City Court Judge Michelle Odenet confirmed to be in her home. Witnesses jokingly toss around racial slurs, saying the N-word, while narrating home security footage of their efforts to stop a man from breaking into a car on their driveway. Now, let me make myself very clear. This story, for me, is not about the criminal activity. The criminal activity is wrong, and they had a right to defend their property. They had a right to defend their home and their car. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But reviewing the video, going back through that video, and calling the suspect the N-word is newsworthy here because she is a sitting judge. She's a sitting judge. If you think that way about black people, if you think they are the N-word and you compare them to cockroaches, I question your discernment. Now, this would have been some average white bigoted family. I don't give a damn. I don't care. They have no power in the system that I'm trying to make fair. But this family does. This judge has power, has executive authority inside of the judicial system. It makes it my business now. So let me get that out the way. It continues. In a phone interview, the judge confirmed the armed burglary at her home very early Saturday morning, saying the incident was horrific and shook her to the core. Well, they seem to be okay now. I mean, they were laughing about it and enjoying themselves. No faces are evident in the cell phone video, and it is unclear who is using the racist language. It's unknown who recorded the video. All right, come back to me. It was her. It was her. Now, I'm going to show you why I have concluded it was her. It gets deeper. There are multiple references to mom throughout the video and her role during the burglary in the process. They're literally describing what the judge is doing. The judge is the mom in the narrative. And mom's yelling, N-word, N-word, says one male voice. To which another female voice responds, we have an N-word. It's an N-word, like a roach. I got more. Lost his wallet, says one voice. That's my phone where it fell out, says another. Going to get the gun can be heard. The dude had a phone on him, chimes in a female voice. I should have taken his phone from him, that effing blank, all right? In the question sent by text message, more evidence that is her, by the way. In the question sent by text message, the Current, that's the publication, also asked Odenet whether she thought she could sit fairly in judgment of black defendants, here it is, who appear before her court, and whether she was planning to apologize for use of this offensive and derogatory epithet. Her statement says, and I quote, here it is, my children and I were the victim of an armed burglar at our home. The police were called and the assailant was arrested. The incident shook me to my core and my mental state was fragile. I was a wreck and I am still unable to sleep. I remember, looked like they were having a good damn time watching that video. All of a sudden she's emotionally distraught, unable to sleep. I was given a sedative at the time of the video. I have zero recollection of the video and the disturbing language during it. Anyone who knows me and my husband knows this is contrary to the way we live our lives. I mean, was everybody on the same sedative? Did the sedative make your whole damn family racist in that moment? What kind of sedative are you taking? Maybe there needs to be a recall of this sedative. I am deeply sorry and ask for your forgiveness and understanding as my family and I deal with the emotional aftermath of this armed burglary. That's fine. I get that. But we're going to deal with the aftermath of your racism on Indisputable. Okay? Doc, you're an actual trained psychiatrist. Did she take a sedative that made her racist, her and her entire family? Does this type of drug exist?
Unless it's truth serum, no. I've prescribed a lot of sedatives in my day, and I'll say that sedatives don't really make you anything except tired for the most part. That's why they're called sedatives. They don't make you racist. They don't make you go, rob a bank or drive the wrong way down the street or anything. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the market, right? And so, part of the issue here is she's kind of hiding behind this notion of kind of saying, I'm the victim here. I'm not the aggressor. And in part, it's true. Her home was, there was a template burglary at her home. And who knows in those moments what kind of language comes out? I think at people's most intense moments, they can be very revealing moments. People yell all kinds of curse words or say all kinds of horrible things. So giving her the benefit of the doubt, maybe she felt vulnerable and this horrible stuff came out, but it also did reveal something. This wasn't the sedative. This was something deep about her. No, I totally agree with you that why this is important is because she's not just a judge, she's judge of a small claims court in Lafayette. And that's the kind of court that people have every day. Things come up, traffic violations and small misdemeanors, all these kind of things. It's largely people of color who appear in front of her court. And so the issue is, if this reveals something about her, how does that bleed into her professional responsibility, which I agree with you is particularly important in this kind of case, not just because she's a judge, but because of the kind of judge she is.
That's right. That's well said. Courtrooms like hers, they're considered the people's court. You don't have significant litigation by lawyers. You have a lot of indigent individuals who are trying to get through the system without representation. And you're right. You have a large minority population that will engage small claims court, and she will oversee those cases. So at the end of the story here, the question has to be posed: are you able to judge fairly and be non-biased in your application of your discernment as a judge? At this point, many are calling for her resignation. She has made absolutely no mention of resigning. She simply came back with that tired ass excuse.
Tired ass excuse and somewhat of a tired ass story, right? Mr. Untouchable, what say you to this story?
The reason why I presented this story is twofold. It had to do with the dangerousness of Karen. If we was to go back to the idea of how Karen is very dangerous, and also it's an extension of our discussion that we had as far as the legal system. You remember the case that we was looking at that Azuli sent when everyone was in collusion together. Even before the guy came to the courtroom.
What that guy was name again? Sanchez.
That's what his name was. You remember that name too. Mm-hmm. But it's not the fact that they think of us as the N-words. That's really neither here nor there. What's really important is the fact that these people are in positions of authority to adjudicate cases, and some of these cases don't necessarily even have to do with life, small claims. They have to do with life and death. Mm-hmm. So imagine if you have a person under the judicial system thinking in terms of, I get another cockroach in front of me, I get another N-word in front of me. How is he going to adjudicate or she going to adjudicate that case? Mm-hmm. This is where I think about the dangerousness of Karen. And I think that when I was talking about her being removed, I understand you can't remove everybody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Somebody can have most of these people have a particular bend. But I just really wanted to extend on our discussion earlier. And I found it interesting that, these people have these ideas coming into the courtroom. And Karen is dangerous. And sometimes Karen wear judicial robes. They wear priest robes. They wear teacher uniforms. Mm-hmm. These people are very, very dangerous. And they have a responsibility over a whole lot of people. So you have to just be very vigilant. Especially these people out here, and you get what she said. She said she took a nigger sedative. and the nigga sedative made us say the nigga word over and over again. Imagine that. You know, I took a nigga sedative and it made me say nigga all. I don't know what kind of sedative that is, but you know, it's interesting how Karen is, man. But I
So
digress, like Karen, Kevin says.
yeah, so I posted a tweet on Twitter yesterday along the lines of how like America has a way of insulating bitch ass people and bitch made behavior where in other places you'd be able to go and check that type of thing. And that's the thing about America that makes me just shake my head. Like I get that a big part of war is deception. So yeah, you're going to pretend like you're not a racist, but go and be a judge and all this kind of thing. I get all that. But when you're called out on it, when they have you on video showing this and that and the other, and then you come up with these lame excuses of a nigga sedative, and you know, but because you're a judge, you're kind of insulated. They won't really do nothing much to her at all, you know. And like in New York, you see these things. The reason for my tweet yesterday was because I had to deal with this white woman manager in a post office yesterday. I went to go pick up a package, and I'm at this window, and no one's coming to the window. It's me and other people there for 20, 30 minutes. I go to the main to the other side where folks are like buying stamps and stuff, and I ask the people there, "What's going on over here?" Eventually, I go back and I say, "Hey, can you send a manager over to this window here?" This lady comes, this white woman comes there, big old gross fat white woman comes there, pretending to stare me down. Like, sir, I told you to go and join the regular line, which I've been in this place 20, 30 minutes. Now I'm going to go join this line and stomp another 20, 30 minutes. And I just looked at her like, you know, if this was the post office in Grantstown, like in my hometown, Mr. Untouchable's hometown, you know, I could stand up in the parking lot and check you as soon as you come with a man, woman, boy, or girl. I could stand in the parking lot and check you for that shit you just did. You know, in New York here, there's a thing that's called the MTAs, the bus and trains services. They can get away. A bus driver could pull off right in your face. He could get away with that because there's a law that protects them. You touch one of these guys, that's jail for 7 years at least. You know, so there's a lot of bitch made stuff in the States that just perplexes me, right? But then I understand it. It's not a fair game out here. They have it that way to be unfair. In the chat, the Pro-Black Perspective says, tired of black folk complaining about this word when they 90% use it. Absolutely. Neferre is here. Neferre says, agree with both the learning curve and the Pro-Black Perspective. Did I miss the learning curve? Oh, yeah. The learning curve says, we all know that this is a system of injustice. Would you prefer the N-word, or would you prefer that they shoot him down? You misunderstand how much power regular people have. That's an interesting take on that. I appreciate that. The Harsh Rally podcast says, we've given that word its power. It can't both be a term of endearment and also a vestige of scorn. Got to pick a lane. Although it's fuck this lady, I agree with Oni. Bobby Wright says, this shouldn't surprise any African. The whole system is a white supremacist system. She's not an isolated racist. I agree. Pro-Black Perspective says, black folks want others to judge them. Neferre says, I'm tired of black people taking the stance of a white person using the N-word as proof that they're racist. It's an extremely basic lens of racism. The Harsh Rally podcast says, Sanchez, hope he got out of Utah. I doubt it. Pro-Black Perspective says, I think it's hard to respect people who forfeit their self-determination to you. Yeah, you can't. You just can't. The learning curve says, your first mistake was thinking that any white person is not racist. And that's the bottom line. When I was having the discussion about the book Nation Building in the roundup conversation, that's one of the things I said. If your education, if your curriculum is not pointing out, And I know there's one or two Negroes somewhere thinking, well, I know some nice white folks. If your education is not pointing out who your enemies are, your people will be lost. And that's what's going on with Black equals African folks in most places where they are. We are not educating our children to understand and know who is your enemy. I think it was Shoot the Breeze a couple weeks ago. I brought that up. If you ask the kids around you, who's the enemy of Black folks, most kids, and I'm not talking about 5-year-old kids, right? Most teenage kids wouldn't even think to say, is these white folks. That's a failing on our part, right? Janelle Benjamin says she blames her white fragility. Really? Laughing her ass off. She says it revealed that she believes she is superior to Black folks. Shaking my damn head. Kare, did this story surprise you any bit?
No, not at all. That there was a clan meeting right there, man. She exchanged one robe for another robe.
How would you suggest Black folks deal with that type of situation?
Yo, we gotta control. As I said, we gotta. This is my opinion, not anyone else. But it starts with economy, economics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Powernomics. You know, we gotta first have the economics, then the political. Then we can get, as you said, little victories. We'll get one guy. You know, that's gonna be for us. You know, that we, as I say, we buy or at least we lease a politician. Then grow from there.
Mr. Untouchable, any last words on this front?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
In the words of the great learning curve matron, she says, "What are you gonna do?" This is what she likes to say, and that's solvable. And what I would suggest is, if you can remove her physically, grab her by the hair, and take her off the bench. And if you can't do anything like illegal, like wait for outside, mask and gloves, which is another conversation.
Right.
I would say this. You know, you call the people who control the fact that she is sitting on that bench, and you explain to them why you call it. If you're in the particular state, and say, well, I don't want this lady on the bench. She obviously is a person who has particular leanings. How can she distribute justice in an unbiased way? You call her legal licensing people. You know, you inundate these people with either telephone calls or letters. You know, if you can't really physically remove them, still throw a rock. Still throw a rock, man. And the rock is, physically calling or emailing or do it to her bosses. Send it to her bosses because they may have not seen the video. Let them know what's going on. And you do that in reference to actually trying to do a little bit of something. A little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. You know what I mean?
That's gonna put that on a t-shirt, Underdog. A little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. That's true. So, but the issue there is that her bosses feel the same as she does.
Maybe, but you still throw the rock anyways. You know what I mean? If somebody may, because see, well, I believe I'm a seller, and I believe in interests.
Right.
So if you say, hey, okay, if you don't say nothing, then I'm gonna use your name and I'm gonna go to CNN. How about that? Because they don't want to be exposed, not especially nationally. You know what I mean? It's because everybody gonna look at that and say, "Oh," because they want to have this idea that we are all civil and fair here. So the best antiseptic to these evils that occur is exposure. You know, you shed light on certain things. So I say, throw a rock, man. Throw a rock, even if that rock is a telephone call. And throw a rock.
Some hit dog will holler, right? Just throw the rock. Some hit dog will holler, I guess. I mean, I think the best thing you said there, honestly, is better to do a little something than to do a whole lot of nothing. 'Cause I think we are too used to doing a whole lot of nothing too, So I think it's important. Kevin Carre, you had something to say?
I just found an article. I just put in a private chat. They just removed a black judge, Alabama judge, who called colleagues Uncle Tom, removed from bench. The article's date December 18th, 2021.
Yeah, no surprises there. You know.
No, the difference is that the white community is not apathetic. They get busy about the business of doing certain things if they hear certain things that they believe that is counter to their interests.
Yep.
Our issue is apathy. Oh, well, we expect these things to happen, so we do nothing anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the idea, like I say, is to throw a rock. Because they'll throw their stones all day if they hearing some shit that they don't like to hear, especially coming from our black mouth. So our thing to really overcome is our apathy. Okay. Well, we expect these people to call us these things. Well, this ain't nothing new. All these things is get you to not really do anything about it. No. That's what they want you to do. Nothing. A whole lot of nothing. You know what I mean? No. Still throw the rock anyways.
I like that. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Like, our tendencies are to turn and not compete, turn away, run away, whatever, right? To not really compete where there's competition going on. And that's one of the things I want to change. Like I tell my kids all the time, learn to compete. Don't shy away from competition. Learn to compete. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, learn to compete. If they could throw stones when they want to throw stones, our stones might be a little bit smaller or a little bit lighter, but throw the shit anyway. Throw it anyway. Do something. Get into the habit of doing something. Now, don't just, and this is important, don't just think that you're going to sit up here or stand up here and phone call and petitions and walking in circles, calling out a protest, and that's doing something, because we don't want that problem either, right? There's bigger things to be done. But while you're working on the bigger things too, throw those couple of stones as well. I actually agree with that. Kevin Carey, you have the last word on this prompt.
Well, I've said all I need to say, actually.
Okay. Then Mr. Untouchable, you have the last word on the prompt.
I am good. I think that it was just really an extension on our discussion last week when Sanchez went into the courtroom and was trying to get a fair trial. You see what happened to him, and the ideas and the biases of these judges, even before the brother entered, any black person or a person of color enters into the courtroom, the mindset of these people. So, like I say, throw the rock or go to school. You know what I mean? Go try to get on the bench too. Do what you can. Yes. You know what I mean? In the counter of what these guys wholesale trying to do to you. Don't just lay there and get your thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do something.
Yeah. Don't just hold your ankles. Nefere in the chat says racists should not go unpunished, and I think that's what Mr. Untouchable is basically saying. Like, get back, get on them to it. It might not be as fruitful as you'd like it to be, and this, that, and the other, but like he said, throw that stone. Janelle Benjamin says the problem is that we excuse the actions of people when terrified in their own home. Yeah, I don't care what you do in your home. And that's why, too, we had that thing a couple years ago where they were taking down these statues and they were talking about the, what's that flag again? What's that Southern flag again? What's the name of that again?
Flag.
The Confederate flag and all that stuff. Me personally, keep that shit up. I like it. Keep it up so I can know exactly where to aim. I could know exactly where to avoid. We gotta let some of these things be public, but right at the same time, while we might be pushing back against what they're doing, we gotta be really organizing ourselves to ultimately get ourselves in a place where they don't have that reach against us. The Harsh Reality Podcast says, I'm gonna go put a few bucks on Sanchez's commissary. He's provided endless hours of entertainment on this platform. Poor guy.
But I thought Sanchez was white. That's Sanchez, right?
Right. Right. Sanchez is supposed to be a white boy, right?
Sanchez.
All right. So we're gonna go to the next prompt for the night. Shoot the breeze prompt number 5. This prompt. I spoke about this in an episode back in the day too. Vexing as it is. We're talking about Biden. This prompt says, why did the current president of the United States tell a Florida audience that the Bahamas brought crack into the United States? So for those who are not familiar, if you didn't hear that episode when I talked about this, let's take a look at this now. Let me share my screen so you could see it. All right, let's talk about it. So this one, of course, is personal to me. For those of you who know, you know. Yes, that's it.
Was one that Pat Moynihan, and he's a great guy. You remember the crack epidemic came from the Bahamas, and we were told by medical doctors at the time that because it permeated the membrane of the brain more quickly, it was the crack you never come back. It was somehow fundamentally different than someone in a beautiful neighborhood like this sniffing a line of cocaine would get not automatic sentence for.
Yeah, so there was an edit to this. Let me see something. Hold
on drugs was one that Pat Moynihan, and he's a great guy. You remember the crack epidemic came from the Bahamas.
But fuck you, boy. So that was Biden on this whole shit about the crack epidemic coming from the hometown. Kevin Curry, have you ever seen this clip before?
This is the first time I've seen this mentioned. I've never seen it before. No.
Really? Oh, I'm surprised. Okay. Yeah. I talked about this some years back. Before I go to Mr. Untouchable, Kevin Curry, when you see this, what's the first thought that came to your mind?
I just remember the old Looney Tune theme.
Mm-hmm.
Every time this idiot opens his mouth, it's just pure comedy.
Yeah, that's
like,
what I'm sure.
This guy, he's talking about the crack. What about his goddamn son? What's a full blown crack addict right there?
Right. All right. In the chat, the House Rally podcast says Jim Crow Joe doesn't know what he's saying half the time. I might agree with that somewhat. Mr. Untouchable, you and I are from the place. What say you?
Nah, cool. You know, this... you know, this is near dead our hearts.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So I'm asking myself how this presidential Ken, or what you call him, Ken.
Yeah.
How you going before a United States audience and tell them that we're responsible for crack in the United States of America? And it seemed like they really believe him.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that he could get away with this? Is for me, my mind is boggled. How he could get away with something like this.
Well, white folks are dumb, you know.
Right. So we was talking about earlier propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it depends on who that propaganda comes from. People will swallow it down and eat it up like it's French fries. You know, so I'm saying to myself, you are supposed to be well-informed people. How could you believe that? I understand the issue will be okay because of Carlos Lita and what he may have done in parts of the Bahamas. That's well and good, but we personally are responsible for the crack epidemic. Come on,
all the USA.
Come on, man. Come on.
Don't forget the book Dark Alliance, which talks about it. Gary Webb.
Yes, man. Come on, man. Come on. So I just thought it was fascinating to talk about, as far as when we was talking about propaganda earlier, mm-hmm. and how many people, because he has influence, okay, much influence. So people would believe what he says, the same as people would believe what Trump says. And if you don't investigate, this comes really with the importance of investigating for yourself and really trying to find out and really talk to the people about certain things as far as the information and the news you may hear. But for me, it was just a fascinating talking point that I really wanted to put out there.
So, just quickly, I tried to find a very clean clip of it, but I want to play this clip. I always love this clip. I have my problems with him a little bit as a prime minister, but our former prime minister, our first prime minister, he was on, I don't know if you could remember this, but he was on US TV. He was on, I think it was Channel 7. And he was talking about these claims somewhat in the past. Let me play this for y'all to check this out.
Sir Lyndon flatly denied the allegations and later announced the setting up of a royal commission of inquiry to investigate the drug traffic and clear the government of involvement in it.
Mr. Prime Minister. Hold on. I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to you.
I don't have a copy of the report, but if anybody would, Mr. Ross might.
I'm not interested in Mr. Ross. Mr. Ross is a faker. He is known to have conducted fraudulent interviews before. I don't want to deal with Mr. Ross. If he were interviewing me on the show this morning, I would have no objection to it. You are interviewing me, ma'am. And with the greatest respect, have you got a copy of the report?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the arrangement was that Mr. Ross was to interview you.
He was to interview me?
Yes.
When?
Mr. Prime Minister,
I was coming from a meeting in Nassau, a microphone was poked in my face, 12 o'clock at night. Can I talk to you? I say, no, I'm tired. I'm going home.
I'm wondering if you do have a specific request for these papers, the man who has them, at least for representing NBC News, is sitting to your immediate left. Perhaps you could ask him.
I am not interested in the man. I know how to deal with the man.
But if access is what you're after.
This is an NBC responsibility. He just happens to be working for NBC. I want these alleged reports supplied to me. I'll tell you why. The President of the United States has commended myself and my government for the assistance that we have continuously given.
Then why hasn't the Justice Department responded?
Just one moment, let me finish. He's had a whole week on this thing. I've just come for a couple of minutes. Admiral Murphy has said in an interview that these are all rumors, an accumulation of rumors on which there is no substantive hard evidence and you can't come to any conclusion on. I spoke to Vice President Bush and we are in continued discussions on how we can better cooperate on the on dealing with this matter.
Have you spoken with the Vice President since the charges were made?
Oh, no, not since the charges. Ever since December, and we have been in correspondence. No, I contacted the President. Why go to the Vice President when I can go direct to the President?
The newspapers swarmed over the Bahamas. The Times, I think, did the story Nation for Sale.
On special segment tonight, the continuing connection between the Bahamas and drug money, big drug money. The Bahamas are ideally located to serve as a jumping-off place for drug shipments coming from Central and South America to the United States. And Brian Ross reports tonight that there is a great deal of evidence that big drug money goes right to the top in the Bahamas.
When I got invited into the cabinet, we were being blamed for America's appetite for drugs. Now, the Minister of National Security, people like Mr. Roker, will tell you that we were defined as a transshipment point for drugs. We didn't create drugs. We didn't grow drugs at that stage. But because of being next to the United States that had the largest appetite for drugs, it was very easy for American government officials to say, boy, those drugs came through the Bahamas, and very easy for journalists and just people who looked at the situation to say, well, if the Bahamian government had stopped them, we wouldn't have had drugs in New York or Washington or Los Angeles or Chicago.
Do you know what a transit state is, man? The Bahamas does not grow drugs. Americans buy it from where it came from. Americans are engaged in transporting it. Americans receive it in the United States. Americans use it in the United States. My little country stretches 500-600 miles from Florida to Haiti or Cuba. In order for our tourism to grow, we've got airstrips right on through those islands. We've got about 25 or 26 government-owned airstrips.
Is it possible that
Just
Mr.
hold on,
Vesco
ma'am.
is using
Just
your...
hold on, ma'am. Just hold on. And there are some private ones. And the FBI, the DEA, and any other kind of A you have can't stop them coming into airfields in Florida. You expect my little country, me, with 200-odd thousand people, to be able to do what you can't do in this big country? You all got to be crazy.
Boy, that last part is the part that always sweet to me. But well, y'all got to be crazy. You know what I mean? Y'all got to be crazy. Mr. Untouchable, you familiar with that whole story when Penland was on TV in the States, right?
No, I am familiar with it because there was, like I say, man, there's propaganda out there, and these people have their spin, their narrative that they create. And sometimes you don't hear the other side of that so-called narrative because they like to pin us with this idea of corruption. No mention of that in any situation where you have the selling and the buying of something. There's something called supply and demand. If there was no demand for drugs, there would be no need for a supply of it, eh? That's how capitalism works. But no comment on how the majority of the so-called drugs end up into the noses of many Americans. But that's neither here nor there. I just found it interesting, the narratives that people weave and how they got busy with the idea of weaving these narratives. So we must weave our own narratives. And I'm glad even that guy was really the so-called father of our nation, one of them. You know, like him or hate him,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But it's a person that we point to that's our George Washington, you know, whether we want to admit that or not. But that's
Right.
neither here nor there. But I just think that when you nation building, these are kinds of things that need to be thought about. And as far as defense and you protecting your nation, you know what I mean? Despite the fact that people may like push claims on you of corruption and this and that or whatever, this another idea of defense. But it's just a whole lot. It's a long story, man. But I just really wanted to put that commentary out there to see what would come back.
Yeah, and to go to the original video with Biden talking that fool talk, that's the propaganda, and propaganda works on the dumb really well. You know what I mean? All them white folks he was talking to, I forget where he was when he was making that speech. I want to say it was Massachusetts or something like that. You know, these folks don't know a Bahamian, right? They just know it as a tourist destination. They don't know what's going on in that country, right? But because it's a bunch of black folks, it was easy to sell that idea to those folks. You know what I mean? KW Don 7 says, who owns the supply chains, the ports, the ships, the airplanes? Fuck out of here. I agree with that. And I always appreciated Penland for that last statement, man. Man, you got to be crazy. You know, that white woman in that interview, you know, she died like a week later or something, like in a car accident.
Did she?
Yeah. That was big news back home. She died in a car accident probably less than a week later, like 3 days later or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So rest in peace. But we move on to the next prompt, Shoot the Breeze prompt number 6. I'm going to post a prompt now, but what we're going to do, we're going to take a station ID break. And on the other side, we'll continue the Saturday night Shoot the Breeze.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-black perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the revolutionary matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Have you ever considered joining KWAZ Radio? Each of our hosts shares their unique perspective with you. You might have a perspective that needs to be shared. If that's true, hit us up at kwaz.radio@gmail.com. What are you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, Mr. Untouchable. What's the drink of choice tonight? Last week it was Appleton. What's the drink tonight?
No, it's still Appleton and Coke.
Oh, okay, all right, got you.
Yeah.
So, Shoot the Breeze prompt number 6 is Louisiana judge to take unpaid leave after home video captures racial slurs. Activists called for the resignation. Should she have been relieved of duty instead of unpaid leave? Can this serve as a wake-up call for her so that she is more sensitive and aware? Let me post this. Oh, was it the same story? Oh, maybe it's the same story. Okay, my bad. Let's jump to Shoot the Breeze, topic number 7. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize it was the same story. This is the Shoot the Breeze topic number 7. Again, my apologies. And this is why I asked for you guys to post a prompt to the story, because it's Shoot the Breeze. It's not me doing research and all that stuff. When you post a video, post a prompt. And the prompt is the reason why you're posting the video. So post a video, post a prompt, or post the article and post a prompt so that we can just get right into it. Right. So my bad on that prompt there. Let's go to this one.
And
so this prompt is, Shoot the Breeze prompt number 7 is Nigeria plans reciprocal flights ban on 4 countries over Omicron. Let's watch this video and we'll talk about it after we view it.
Also travel updates, where as part of reciprocal move, Nigeria, it plans to ban flights from Argentina, Britain, Canada, and Saudi Arabia from this week. Well, those countries had added Nigeria in the red list over detection of Omicron COVID-19 variant last month. Several countries have restricted movement of people from some African nations since Omicron variant was first detected in South Africa and Hong Kong, and it's since spread to at least 57 nations. Nigeria's aviation minister said he had recommended that 4 countries should be placed on a COVID-19 red list, which would entail a ban on flights. Britain was first country to announce a travel red list, which Nigeria has described as unjust and unfair. Well, the World Health Organization has said countries should apply an evidence-informed and risk-based approach over the variant when deciding on travel measures linked to Omicron, including possible screening or quarantine of global passengers. It also said the blanket ban, they do not prevent spread at all. WION now available in your country.
Yeah, so Nigeria had some balls and turned that table. Well, if y'all gonna ban African countries, we will ban y'all. And there was a response to that. We'll talk about in the next prompt. What do you guys feel about this? Kevin Carey, let's start with you. What do you guys feel about this Nigeria plan to have a reciprocal flights ban?
I love it. I love it.
You have to.
Look, listen, I'm in pure joy and bliss right now. Sorry, man, but that's all I can say. I love that. I'm just so. Oh, you gotta understand.
I agree. Mr. Untouchable, what says you?
Azuli like to talk about the L's, and we always think, it's like you think L. So for me, that's like a small L. This is a small W.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
For us, it's a small W. It looks, it's uh, it's a small victory, but I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it because it don't usually happen. I think that some of the African countries are slowly, waking up and exerting a little bit of strength within themselves and saying, "Well, no, 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 we ain't going for that. No, 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 fuck that." So I could appreciate the small victories. I'll take them. Hopefully they'll accumulate to larger victories in the future, as long as we put in the work and send a message out there to the sleeping giant that, hey, it's time to wake up now and exert your power and force and strength in the world.
What says you guys in the chat? There's a good number of you here. What says you guys in the chat? Bobby right on time, says it's a great gesture if only all of African nations would follow suit. So I agree with you, Bobby E. Wright. I will remind folks that Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken, Nigeria has the biggest economy on the continent. Is that accurate, Mr. Untouchable?
Yes, sir. Under South Africa.
Oh, right.
No, they're ahead of South Africa. Sorry.
Okay. So they're ahead of. Yeah, so they have the largest economy.
Yes.
In the continent, and that's a big move by a large economy. Again, all these folks are doing business and making money off of Nigeria. All these different outside countries, right? So to put up that level of balls means a lot. Now some people might say it's symbolism. I don't think that's really symbolism. That's a good show of strength. And like you said, it's a small W, but it's a worthy one at that, though, right?
I'll accept it.
Yeah, I'll accept it. KW Don 7 says Africa should be withholding the extraction of national resources from the continent because they may have the Omicron variant also. That's the next step. That's why it's not a bigger W to me, and I assume to Mr. Untouchable. When you start withholding those resources, right, then you'll really be saying something. But there was a response to this of sorts. Let me find it, because it takes us right into topic number 8 tonight. So there was a response to this. So Shoot the Breeze topic number 8 is a back-to-back topic type of thing. Topic number 8 was Canada lifts travel ban from African nations, reimposes testing. So you see how when you show some strength, folks have to pay attention to that, right? So let's read this article. Again, Canada lifts travel ban from African nations, reimposes testing. The restriction had been announced last month to slow the arrival of Omicron in Canada and buy us some time, he said. But with Omicron now spreading within Canada, it is no longer needed. So you see how they, oh boy, the game. So Canada announced Friday the lifting of a ban on foreign travelers from 10 African countries, while reimposing testing and warning that the Omicron variant of COVID-19 risks quickly overwhelming hospitals. The travel restriction on flights from South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Eswatini, Namibia, Nigeria, Malawi, and Egypt will end at 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. Health Minister Jean Yves Duclos told a news conference. The restriction had been announced last month to slow the arrival of Omicron in Canada and buy us some time, he said. But with Omicron now spreading within Canada, it is no longer needed. That's game right there, right? That's a lie. Pre-arrival negative PCR tests for all travelers would also be reinstated as of December 21st. Duclos said while repeating a government warning earlier this week that now is not the time to travel. Officials said laboratory tests have confirmed as of Friday nearly 350 cases of the Omicron variant across Canada. 350. The total average daily COVID case count, meanwhile, has jumped by 45% in the past week to about 5,000. It is expected the sheer number of Omicron cases could inundate the health system in a very short period of time, said Chief Public Health Officer Teresa Tam. You see, deception. War is deception. So they'll tell you this stuff, but you and I are supposed to be able to read between the lines. Mr. Untouchable, what says you to this prompt?
No, I think it's a good thing. I see if you ban us, you got to ban our natural resources too, our mineral resources too, because we just cough and spit all over that.
Yes.
So you got to ban that too. So the more powerful nations could say, well, we gonna ban you all. You know what I mean? So y'all can't come in there. No problem. But the less powerful countries who more reliant on our natural resources, like Canada and France and certain parts of Europe, they say, well, we can't really stick to this unified pan-Europeanism that you all guys are trying to impose over the world because we can't afford it. So we can't hold out as long in having this idea, this pan-Europeanism, or we can ban your black niggas over there. So they said, nah. Our country have to exist. You know what I mean? Because we need them natural resources. We need that cocoa and coming into our country. You know what I mean? So it really is our version of divide and conquer as well. And I think that Africa needs to be on the offensive, you know, when these things occur. So I respect that. Like I say, I'll take the small W's when we get them. I'll take the small and build on them, you know, until they become big ones.
Absolutely. Like you said, and others, KW Don 7 said in the chat, start to withhold those resources too. You understand? Start to shut that down. You know, Kevin Curry, do you have any last words on this?
Yeah, I would love to see that next year because you and I, we spoke about this before during last year's the elections, right? If only black folks would withhold and demand something, they'll get something done. But next year in 2024 presents an even better opportunity because what you saw in Virginia was they thought that the Hispanics and the Asians were going to vote Democrat, and it went sideways. If only black people would look at next year and start demanding stuff now.
So here's the thing. I agree with that 100%. One of the issues I have, and not that I'm in support of it 100% per se, when Ice Cube was talking about the plan for the platinum plan or whatever for America, that was happening just before the Trump-Biden election, right? How come I've heard nothing from Black America? I mean, nothing as far as demands go, as far as what you need to be doing for us to even entertain voting for you. Where is that going? Shouldn't that be something, a thrust that occurs every day of every year leading up to elections if you're serious, Kevin Carre?
Yeah, it was more of get your booty to the poll.
Yeah, well, that was from the Democrat side, but from black people's side, where is the itemized list of things that need to happen before we cast our vote to get us to vote again? You want to get back in this power position? Here's our list of things. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. This is a very, very pivotal point right now. But
I think that what happens is, sorry, Kev, I don't want to interrupt you, brother. You done?
No worries. Go on.
Okay. Sometimes the way people know you bluffing is if you have no conditions as far as coming to the table and saying, well we gonna agree. We'll move to move ahead together. We have to agree to certain things. This is almost happens in an abusive relationship between a man and a woman sometimes. If she has no really terms to really getting back with the man who was mistreated or abused her, he gonna do it again. He's like, man, listen, you was an easy lunch. You know what I mean? You really have no standards that I have to live up to in order for me to be with you. You know what I mean? So it's like you need to stand your ground and say, well, this is what it is. And if you can't live up to these expectations, it's done. You know, so I think that these people begin to realize that these people are bluffing. It's all a bluff. They're gonna turn around some furniture, they're gonna burn this and burn that, but at the end of the day, they're gonna come right back to us because they really have no conditions. You know what I mean? They have no conditions of what they really gonna stand for. They'll fall for anything. You know, so I think that's what happens sometimes. And the guru, like KW Don says, they can say, man, listen, man, these guys, regardless of what we do, they're gonna resist for a couple of days, but they're gonna come right on back to us, regardless of what we do. We could kill their kids and all.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no conditions, man. It's no conditions. It's no surrender. But I don't want this Appleton to talk and make me speak too much. But let me leave it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Back in the day, our conditions would have cost us, if you look at the track record of many insurrections and slave revolts, is when you mistreated the women. You know, as far as the plantation goes, if you was to document why certain things would have occurred, it came from some mistreatment of the black female. You know, that was the conditions of we can't live with this scenario. We're willing to die for if you mistreat our women in a certain way. We were willing to die for that. No way. This was our ancestors back in the day. And if you look at the insurrections and many slave rebellions, how it was started, in particular, the Gullah Geechee, well, the Seminole Wars in South Florida, that was started all over a black woman. Many people don't know that. All over a black woman. But now you fast forward that in 2020, we have saw not only in the males die, but we see the females get mistreated and die, but we even up to seeing the kids dying and watching it on videotapes. And there's no consequences. We ain't saying, well, nah, we ain't gonna go no further than that. You ain't gonna mistreat us beyond this extent. So I think it's because we have no conditions. These abusers say, man, listen, man, ain't nothing y'all gonna do. Y'all gonna still come back to us at the end of the day. You killed my child, man. Now for me, you can't sing me no Jesus song that gonna stop or talk about forgiveness and the hair. Fuck that. You know, I'm mask and gloves with you. Police or not, I'm willing to take that shot. What do you call it? The shot and dying for my belief that if you kill my child, you kill me. So you die too. You know, but that's neither here nor there. Let me speak peace. Times of broadcast.
Nah, man, that's real talk though. We were on the Spaces. We were on Twitter Spaces last night. D-Web hosted it, and at one point there was a conversation about like masculinity. Well, the whole conversation was about toxic, the debunking the myth of toxic masculinity. But at one point, we were talking about the fact that we've now become the people who oppress our women, right? Like, you know, it went viral a year or two ago. I think it was maybe 2 years ago before the pandemic. A black woman is in a store somewhere here in New York, like in Harlem, I think, or the Bronx. And two guys are trying to kick it to her, and I guess she politely turns them down. And they beat her bad, bite her in the face and all, you know, sorts of stuff. Kari, do you remember this? And then right around that time, a black guy takes a skateboard and hits a black woman on the side of the head and just sprawls out, knocks out, and this black man standing there laughing. We're not serious people, Kari.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand in our community. We let these things just go, and now what's even worse now, you got these outsiders that would usually think twice about coming into our community doing it. Now they're coming in and doing it because we're not protecting our women.
That's what I'm getting at. Exactly. We have now shown that it's a free fall, Mr. Untouchable.
There should be no sanctuary where these kinds of men should be able to exist within their communities if they was to exact these kinds of things out on these black females. And there should be no sanctuary. There's no justification for where they should be able to exist. You know, even the gangsters should turn them aside and say, nah, you can't come back here. You know, if you come back here, you're gonna die. Because I don't like how you mistreat that mommy, that she's a mother of many kids around here. You know, I don't think the rules have changed. So everyone now is like up for game, even down to the kids. You know what I mean? What happened?
Right.
What happened?
So in the spaces coming, and by the way, I'm hosting a Twitter space this Friday. I would like everyone who's a regular for Shoot the Breeze to come through. It's next Friday, 10 p.m. Follow me on Twitter. It's at BitterMeds, BITTERMEDZ. I'll post some more about it on the community tab. I'm trying to nail down what the topic is, so look for that information in the next couple of hours. But on the Twitter space, we talked about something. D-Web mentioned something interesting because I grew up with this in my hometown. The idea of shame. Like, there was a time where if you were a guy, let's say you did something, this is a made-up person. Let's say you did something to Miss Mavis. And Miss Mavis is known for treating children, poor children in the neighborhood really well and feeding them when she can and clothing them when she can. But some guy comes along and they harm Miss Mavis in some way. There was a group of men who would stand you up and say, but you ain't shame. Miss Mavis, you do that too? You know, Miss Mavis is treat me so well as a child. Miss Mavis, you do that too? And there used to be, and Mr. Untouchable, you could chime in and tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong, right? But there used to be like guys people will shame you for certain activities.
Koku, it even extend beyond you get fucked up for that.
Well, that's the next step I go into.
Yes, you get fucked up. Fucked up. You know, if you mistreat a person, an elderly person who the community knows has been contributing to that community in some substantial way, you get fucked up. Even the gangsters, the gangsters will say, man, you can get fucked up. You can't live here no more.
You can't be here no more.
Your privileges for existing within this space has been canceled, brother. You know, so I think that's what really needs to come back, man. We need to have our own idea of personal enforcement within our own communities. I know we were so-called relying on others to come in and legislate and bring the big stick, but we need to have our own big stick, man. The difference between us and the Jews is, and you all know about this in New York City, they have their own brand of justice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. You're gonna exist in that space if you have particular ideas in your head and you won't go against the grain, which is against what the community standards are. So I think that's some of the things that we have lost, man. You lost your privileges if you do it. But even the gangsters in Mexico, you know, if you do certain things within that community, you can't exist within this space. Mm-hmm. In Jamaica, it's the same way with the Dons. If you do certain things, a particular individual or like older ladies, people who are vulnerable, you have lost your privileges. You can't exist there no more.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. And people, regular people, children, adults will straight up and down ask you, but you ain't shame? Like that's what you did? Like that story in New York that I just talked about, where they beat that woman and bit her just because she rejected them. She rejected their advances. The other case that happened like probably the same week or something like that, where a black dude hits this black woman in the head with a skateboard because she says some some smart shit? Nah, where I'm from, again, the ADOS, FBA people will point to this and say I'm being divisive, but now where I'm from, you can't do that.
Can't exist no more. Can't
Yeah.
exist in that space though. You've lost all your passport privileges of movement within that community. All of them.
All. You can't do that. Any last words on these last two prompts, guys?
We need
No,
more
so
of it.
I think we vetted them good.
Kare?
We need more of this, man. When we stick together, this is what happened. They're gonna rethink their decisions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're gonna have the last topic for tonight come up now. I want to thank you guys again. I see we had a lot of people here tonight. Some people seem to have fallen off. That's all good.
This only 8. You only was on 8. You know, I think you were on 9.
Yeah, this is 9. I don't have a 10th topic tonight.
Okay.
And actually, there was other things posted on the Discord, but folks aren't putting prompts up. And again, I'm not trying to figure out what you wanted to discuss. You know what I mean? Like you in terms of the general you. I'm not trying to figure out what you're all trying to discuss with this prompt. So I just left those prompts back there. You got to put a prompt up. You know what I mean? Shoot the Breeze topic number 9 is Charlemagne the God and Kamala Harris get into a heated exchange after question about who the real president is. Let me play this video. The one I saw on Twitter was shorter. This one actually had a little bit more stuff at the end. And I'm going to share the video with you guys. And I'd like you guys in the chat room, if you're still here, I'd like you guys to chime in. What are your thoughts? And I'll read those live on the air.
Who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne.
I really,
Come on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president. It's Joe Biden.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden. And I'm vice president. And my name is Kamala Harris. And the reality is, because we are in office, we do the things like the child tax credit, which is going to reduce Black child poverty by 50%, on track to do that. We do things that are about saying that our Department of Justice is going to do these investigations and require that we end chokeholds and have body cameras. It is the work of saying we're going to get lead out of pipes and paint because our babies are suffering because of that. It is the work of saying people who ride public transit deserve the same kind of dignity that anybody else does. So let's improve that system. It is the work of saying that we have got to bring down prescription drug costs because folks who have diabetes should not be dying because they don't have enough money in their pocket. It's about saying Black maternal mortality is a real issue that must be treated by everybody, including the White House, as a serious issue. Okay? So I hear the frustration, but let's not deny the impact that we've had and agree also that there is a whole lot more work to be done. And it is not easy to do. But we will not give up, and I will not give up.
I just want you to know that Madam Vice President, that Kamala Harris, that's the one I like. That's the one that was putting the pressure on people in Senate hearings. That's the one I'd like to see more often out here in these streets.
I guess my first question is, was that staged? Kevin Carraway, when you watch that, do you feel like that was staged?
Yeah, they're not even facing each other. Really, I mean, it's over a telecom or whatever. But if it's not staged, I just see the pressures getting to her. And then she started talking. After a while, she didn't really answer the question. She went into a big conundrum about nothing.
Yeah, she deflected at the end there. So they're talking about this this Manchin guy, and that's this what's he from? West Virginia, I think.
Yeah, West Virginia.
Yeah, he's the what's he, the senator out there?
Correct.
Yeah, he's a senator in West Virginia. And I guess Biden then was trying to push this Build Back Better bullshit. And I guess they were trying to get it passed before Christmas. And I guess he's been the fire. He's been the water to their fire. And I guess that's why Charlemagne asked, well, really, who's the president? Is it Biden or is it this Manchin guy, this Joe Manchin guy? And then she feigns to be upset and so on and so forth, like what you saw in the video. This Untouchable, are you clued in on this story?
No. But watching that video, it reminded me of this movie I watched called Django, right?
Yeah.
And in Django, there was the person, I think Leonardo DiCaprio played the role of the actual person who owned this plantation called Candyland.
Mm-hmm.
And his love interest was a lady named Sheba,
mm-hmm.
who happened to be a black woman. And when I watch that video, I'm reminded of when Charlemagne the God asked a question: Is Joe Biden still the president of Candyland? And she's like, "What are you talking about? Of course because she's Sheba. Of course he's still the president of Candyland. What are you talking about? I mean, Joe Biden is the president of Candyland, and she has the mindset. She has the mindset of a plantation style Sheba, who would never divest or separate from her idea of as leadership in a person in leadership position being white Jesus or Calvin Candy in this particular scenario, who is Joe Biden. So I'm reminded of the Django in that clip just now. It's astounding to me that with a woman with all her education, a woman with all her talents, a woman with all her political sophistication still gives deference to nonsense. But this is the game that we play. When we play it inside of America in certain spaces, as far as these integrationist Negroes are concerned, they take us right back to the plantation, whether we want to admit it or not.
Bobby E. Wright in the chat says that was the phoniest thing I've ever heard. That was the funniest thing I've ever heard. I tend to agree with Bobby E. Wright that it was something that they put on because it was supposed to be this thing of showing her strength. And it's also a little bit of a dog whistle too, how she stands up to the black man. She points her finger in his face, albeit across a screen or whatever, right? But, I mean, can y'all do better? And Charlemagne the God and them are some of the worst people in the community anyway. KW Don 7 says, political theater. Kamala may not make it to 2024. Her staff are dropping like fleas. Simone Sanders kicked the can. Yeah, Simone Sanders got up out of there. They did Simone Sanders dirty anyway. They used her like a football linebacker to block and protect for Joe Biden. And then they didn't give her the position that she thought she was going to get. So, I don't blame her for getting out of there. This Untouchable, we'll see.
When you are a militant integrationist, this is the end. You don't see that this is the end result of all your efforts. You know what I mean? I'm thinking that Simone Sanders would have done some research into what happens to these militant integrationists. They eventually get kicked right in the ass. They have the taste of shoe polish in their mouths, and they don't. I don't understand that they don't see these things. But I'm not sorry for her. I'm saying she's gonna get what she gets. Because eventually, even though you could sing for your supper all day and extol all the virtues of Candyland, eventually, Calvin Candy is gonna kick you up in your ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this was just that This is just for show, to show strength, because again they have her lined up to be the next I was about to say prime minister, the next president. So this is all a show right here. Kare, what say you?
Yeah, what can you say? She's one of the most phoniest person. I mean, what are you gonna do? You know, it is what it is.
All right. So you know what? I have a special for tonight. One last topic that we'll do. It's about a student who withdrew from Iona Prep over racist remark, and he shares his story, I guess. This will be the last topic of the night. If you're here, make sure to hit the like button. I forgot to mention that all night. Hit the like button. Show that you were here, you know. And let's get into this last story. So let me play this video, and then we'll talk about it.
To a student. Racist comment. Tonight, a school administrator has resigned. He made a racist comment to a tonight a school administrator has resigned after an allegation surfaced that he made a racist comment to a student. Well, now the star athlete is speaking out exclusively to News 12's Nadia Galindo. She tells us what he says needs to change.
Students documented their walkout at Iona Preparatory High School in action in support of a classmate who says an administrator made a racist comment.
Part of my job is, as an athlete, as a student, as a black kid, it's to make sure that people know that the stereotypes and things like that aren't true.
We spoke to former Iona Prep star baseball player Tony Humphrey, who withdrew from the school after he says an administrator said this to him on the track.
And he comes up to me and says, "Oh, I thought you're already fast as is." I go, "Yeah, I'm decently fast." And he says, "Oh, how'd you get so fast?" He was running from the cops, and it just came out like that.
This as the nation reckons with police violence against Black Americans.
It just shows that racism is a thing.
Tony says it was the school's assistant director of athletics, Bernard Mahoney, who made the comment. Iona Prep administrators did not confirm his identity, but did say the school employee has since resigned. Tony says this comment is just the tip of the iceberg.
The whole program needs to change. It's not just one person. It's not just one student.
In June of 2020, we spoke to 4 graduating Iona Prep football players after a fellow player posted a racist comment on Snapchat. Iona Prep's administration says they do not condone the latest comment. The school's president apologized to Tony and acknowledged there is more work to be done, adding in a statement, "We remain fully committed to being an open, welcoming, embracing, and nurturing community where every young man holds a special place in the brotherhood of Iona men." And while Tony won't be here, he hopes future students won't have to experience the racism he did. In New Rochelle, Nadia Galindo, News 12.
Humphrey's parents tell us Bernard Mahoney did reach out to them over email to apologize. Iona Prep's president says the school recently held a 3-week respect campaign. He says the school remains actively engaged in addressing systemic racism.
So, these stories aren't very surprising, to be honest. This is kind of par for the course now. But what I did find interesting personally, that comment that this white boy made to this articulate black kid, by the way, that comment was similar to a comment a former black football player made on an NFL pregame show, where he said something like, these black guys in the NFL, I forgot his name now. These black guys in the NFL are fast because they was running from the cops all the time. Do you guys remember that incident?
Jimmy the Greek.
Yeah, Jimmy the Greek was back in
the late 80s,
the early the mid 80s. I remember that, but there was a black guy.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Yeah, there was a black guy, former NFL player. He was this guy. Why can't I remember his name? He was a guy who they found out this big dummy couldn't read. He was like a top pick, and they found out that all these years he was in the league and couldn't read and all that stuff. Mr. Untouchable, what say you?
No, I find it fascinating because my cousins in America are the labor force of all these guys having the ability to feed their own families, their white families in the United States, whether you are a college athlete or a high school athlete. People come to really watch the talents of these gifted, black young men having the ability to perform in different feats as far as sports is concerned. And the reason why are willing to pay all kind of tickets to come to watch and perform. And the thanks they get is, oh nigga, the only reason why you are able to perform these feats is because you was doing some illegal activity and running from the police office. Come on, man. Come on, man. But there is a day of reckoning coming, and I think that these people know about it. Where my cousins in the United States, they will eventually divest and say, fuck y'all, man. Let me go somewhere else in the world who are willing to respect what I do and pay for my talents. I don't need to take this bullshit. Eventually there's a day of reckoning coming. They recognize that because we are my cousins in America and us in the West, we are the labor force and really the brain power, but that's not gonna, and the intellectual power, that's not gonna really be admitted. But we are really essentially the foundation of what happens, man. And if you take us out of the equation, what would these countries actually be? Relegated to nothingness, backwardsness. But I think that, like I say, when the sleeping giant finally wakes up and say, "Yo, go fuck yourself, man," you know what I mean? It'll be a real day of reckoning, real day.
Absolutely, I agree. Kevin Carre, what say you about this story overall? What stood out to you?
Well, I can give you my experience here. Remember, I used to cover a lot of sports for a major newspaper here in the city, and that place was. I went to Ion. I didn't go there as a student, but I went there to cover. It's not a very welcoming place for Black people. You're in the middle of their community, and I can tell you about. It was not so much that guy, but a guy. He long resigned, or he might have left somewhere. But that guy was just racist to the core. It's like he'll give you the look like, what the f you doing in my school? I don't care if you're media. Well, why are you here?
Really?
How to get that camera?
Interesting. So you had dealings with this particular guy before?
No, not this guy, but a few guys. This has got to be around 08. So this has been going on for years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a very welcoming environment. That Westchester area. You see, like there's Long Island. It's more. It's more vibrant, as I can say. But when you go to Westchester, it's more subtle. The racism there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for that insight. So Iona's out there. That's what, New Rochelle.
Yeah, New Rochelle, Westchester County.
Westchester County. So it's a little bit towards upstate.
Yeah, it's not that far from the Bronx, actually.
Right. It's a little bit above the Bronx.
Yeah, that's Westchester County. When you leave the Bronx,
yeah,
like when you take the Metro North, once you hit Yonkers, you're in Westchester County.
Right.
Once you pass something called Spite and Dival, yeah, you're in Westchester County.
Okay.
But on an economic level, imagine the millions of dollars these talented young Black males are really bringing in, attracting in to these so-called little small enclaves in these little small town areas.
Mr. Untouchable. Look at I think Texas, they built $1 billion stadium for high school football games.
Yes, sir. Yeah, high school. And they think, but by these little ridiculous comments of, you must have been running from the, come on, man. Come on. These people are very lucky. Very lucky, because right now their competition as far as other stages in the world have not reached out to these very talented physically and intellectually people and say, y'all come over here, man. We gonna entreat y'all to come over here and help our societies to become better. They are very lucky, but that only gonna exist in a very small amount of time. Soon enough, other countries will be reaching out and saying, well, you know what? These guys are really the power.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Let's reach out to them. Fuck these guys.
Oh,
We know
also,
what your secret is.
yeah, also too, every group in America has betrayed America at some point. Black people have never betrayed America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Black Americans have been loyal to a fault, almost like loyal, our loyal lassie. You know, but I'm telling you, I think, you know, man, maybe this is me being optimistic, but I think that that gonna eventually end. You only could beat the donkey for so long until the donkey say go fuck itself.
Yeah.
Or as Coco said last week, yeah, we'll follow you to that non-violent bullshit, but I'm not gonna keep taking a rock, slings, and arrows for you.
Right. KW Don 7, always the researcher. He came up. He said, was it Dexter Manley? It was absolutely Dexter Manley I was talking about. In fact, let me share this with y'all, just so you know what I was talking about. He got some shit for this too when he did it, but I'm sure he got some pats on the head as well. This is Dexter Manley right here. Let me play this.
What's up? It's the Let Me Hate Show. I'm your man, Horatio. Now, former defensive end for the Washington Redskins, Dexter Manley, went on ESPN and made comments about why black quarterbacks are so fast. And he said this, and I'll be right back.
And Robert, you know, as a quarterback, most of the black quarterbacks, they like running because they're probably used to running from the laws. And so I think more importantly is that this guy's gone through his progression. He just plays well. I mean, I made it.
Look at the white folks. Let me play that one more again. Look at the white folks. Just look at this corn-fed Negro and look at the white folks here.
Yo, what's up? It's the Let Me Hate Show. I'm your man, Horatio. Now, former defensive end for the Washington Redskins, Dexter Manley, went on ESPN and made comments about why black quarterbacks are so fast. And he said this, and I'll be right back.
And Robert, you know, as a quarterback, most of the black quarterbacks, they like running because they're probably used to running from the laws. And so I think more importantly is that this guy's gone through his progression. He just plays well. I mean, I made a comment about this black quarterback stuff. I do apologize. And, you know, I say some things that I don't think about sometimes.
Now, sir, I'm going to need you.
Boy, I tell you. We really do need a hit squad.
You know, but look at that's the essential definition of a coon. The bright suit, the bald head. I'm like, just look at this guy.
Yeah.
The high pitched tone. You know, he doesn't want to talk in that deep bass, that deep voice. So you just, that's the true definition right here of a coon.
Yeah, he probably has a straw hat, a cane, and white shoes.
Don't forget the banjo.
All right, banjo playing in the back. Mr. Untouchable, were you familiar with that display of foolishness?
I think that Coco, he is a white supremacist propagandist, whether he knows it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't attribute the fact that these people are fast because of their discipline, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and practicing running fast. He doesn't attribute it to the fact that these guys have trained and things of that nature. He attributes the fact that the reason why they have the ability of what they have is because of criminal activity. And could you imagine such a thing? So he is the best type of propagandist for white supremacy, which is fine. You know, they have their propagandists, but like I say, we must do our work, bro. We must do our work.
Absolutely. KW Don 7 said he was soft shoe cooning. So that's the show tonight. I want to mention again, I am going to be hosting a Twitter space this Friday coming, Christmas Eve, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't have the topic solid, so I'm going to make a post on the community tab. You guys can suggest some topics for me when I put up the community tab post. All right, I'll appreciate that. I also appreciate you guys coming through, lending your voices to this conversation, whatever it's going to be.
Oh,
lastly,
one last thing, Coco, before you go. I want to congratulate you on the last podcast. I want to congratulate you because we went from maybe 100 views in Shoot to Breeze to 1,000.
Yeah.
I don't know how to shout out shit off it, but I want to congratulate you and your efforts, bro. That's phenomenal, bro. Let's keep that up.
Yeah, we're gonna see more of that in the future. I've kind of figured out something here, so we'll see more of that in the future. Shoot the Breeze has been, we've been doing this for 6 months now, right? This is Shoot the Breeze 28 or something. We've been doing this for 6 months now. It's taken off. It's doing well. There's people who, like yourselves on the panel, there's people like KW7, Bobby Wright of late, and others, especially my co-workers from KWAZ Radio Network. They, all of you are making this segment real strong. And I'm hoping to make the Thursday night segment that I'm doing only on the KWAZ radio platform. I'm hoping to make that a strong segment too. So I hope you guys will support that and help those numbers go up. When I looked at the analytics for that last Shoot the Breeze that made 1,000, there's some folks in the Bahamas, there's North America, there's South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. So it's making some inroads. And I think if I start to advertise the show more, I think it'll take off a little bit better. What's the last thing I wanted to say? Mr. Untouchable, you had something you want to say?
No. I just, like I say, they're listening, brother. They're listening.
Yeah, there's some other. Oh yeah, you guys who are here with me, Bobby, you're right now, saying great show, brother Coco, and the panel of the Shoot the Breeze. I appreciate you, Bobby. You're right. I'm sure these guys here appreciate you as well. Next week, Saturday, is their Christmas day. So I'm doing a Spaces on Christmas Eve night, and I have a poll up in the chat here. When I saw it earlier, it was like 100% says yes, do a Shoot the Breeze episode next Saturday night. You guys who are here on the panel, you guys in the chat, will you tune in to Shoot the Breeze next Saturday night? Will you be tuning in? If I do a Shoot the Breeze, will you tune in?
I will. I'll celebrate that heathenist holiday.
I appreciate that.
Koku, I'm not a Christian, so I mean, if I'm around, but my family is, so okay. I mean, I have to, you know how that is. But right. If I can, I'm here. Okay. You know that.
Okay. I'm just waiting to hear back from folks in the chat because that's going to be the determining factor. And I'll also post a poll on the community tab to get more feedback. Even if we, as a matter of fact, even if it's a shorter show, like tonight is a bit of a shorter show. We do an hour and a half. That's still cool. And we'll keep the streak going for Shoot the Breeze. So look out for the community tab for those posts. But I really would like to hear back from you guys as to what you think a good Twitter space topic is. So look for me to post something later tonight on the community tab asking for your ideas. So you guys post your ideas there. Bobby Wright says, I will. KW Don 7 says, I will. I'm sold there. Kevin Carray will be there. I'm sold. I'm not a Christian either, so I ain't got nowhere to be but home, and I'll be drinking my Appleton next week as well. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. There's so many people who were here who are gone now, but Bobby E. Wright, KW Don 7, Bobby Wright, KW Don 7, Daily Affirmations by Pauline, Jonelle. Again, congrats to Jonelle for graduating from college. The Harsh Rally Podcast was here. The Learning Curve, that's the Revolutionary Matron, was here. Janelle Benjamin was here. Nefa Ray was here. Who else was here? There was someone else new tonight as well.
Oh, Audrey Kemi. She came from another show. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
okay.
I invited her here from another show. Yes.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, man. And I hope that most of you will do the same thing. The Pro Black Perspective was here as well earlier. Hope you guys will do that thing where you share the content, because that's really how the views rose up on that video. You share the content. Some of you guys know how to work with Reddit pretty well. Share it on Reddit, etc. Share the content.
Even Tumblr.
Tumblr as well. I used to share the show on Tumblr all the time, and I think I kind of fell off of that now.
Yeah,
But
I think that's like the black hole right there, man.
Yeah, because that was good for photography at one time too, right?
Yeah, God, I miss those days.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I want to thank you guys again for being here. I will be back on Tuesday. I'll be doing a live stream on Tuesday. About Tuesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be hosting a Twitter space. So if you're not following me on Twitter, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Follow all the shows from KWAZ Radio. Make sure to subscribe to the KWAZ Radio YouTube channel. Like I said, I'll be doing stuff exclusively over there in this upcoming Roman New Year. And I'll be back here next week.
Hey, Coco, let me tell you a joke before you close.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's 11:12. I need to go get some bamboo shack before some cracker before bamboo shack close.
If you know, you know.
Yes.
If you know, you know. I appreciate
it's
that.
It's early. Yes,
Hey,
yes.
I got a question for both of you, man. When you say Appleton, you mean Appleton rum from Jamaica, right?
Yeah, that's rum from Jamaica.
Okay.
Yes, that's Appleton from Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. So go get your bamboo shack, man.
Yes.
We'll talk next time. All right. Y'all be good.
Yes, bro.
Y'all be good. Yes, sir. Y'all be good. Thanks for joining the panel tonight, by the way. Y'all be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.